lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, guys, what is up? Welcome to episode number 266 of Sports Cards Live. It's Saturday night, May the 3rd, 2025. My name is Jeremy Lee. Welcome, everybody, back after a week off. And tomorrow night, I'll be back on the channel for the Fanatics Collect Weekly Live show covering all sports. And there are some heaters going off tomorrow night on Fanatics. Check it out. I'll be here with you again. And guys, if you're looking to add a grail to your collection, check out Fund Your Cards, the hobby's leading consolidator. I should know. fundyourcards.com. Check them out. They will help you use your cards to fund your grail. Mint Ink, guys, leading hobby brand in Canada. They offer everything in their LCS, couple of Greater Toronto Area locations, breaks, grading, online shopping, worldwide shipping, etc. Check out mintink.ca and also check out GP Sports Cards. They do crazy hockey breaks right here on YouTube. By crazy, I just mean it's every Wednesday and Friday consistently. Grant is a great guy. Check out GP Sports Cards here on YouTube. And guys, Rolling Insights is your gem mint in sports statistics. Fans and fantasy players rely on their instant access to performance data. You can finally ditch those messy spreadsheets. Whether you're running a business or just for the love of the game, turn raw stats into a real advantage. Visit rolling-insights.com. Do that today. They got their data feeds, which power their platforms with real-time stats, box scores, and player and team performance data. And guys, check out Chronosio. Here's how you spell it right on my shirt. I love the logo. Check out Chronosio, guys. It's the ultimate inventory card manager on the market. It does all the heavy lifting for you. State-of-the-art AI auto-filling. It's 90% accurate. It's a trusted part of the YouTube or the eBay community. Since 2017, millions of cards have been sold using Chronosio on eBay. And if your collection is less than 100 cards, it might not be right for you. It might be, but it might not be right. But once you hit 1,000, 50,000, or even 250,000 cards, there's simply no contest. Chronosio is the only option for serious collectors and dealers. Check them out. home.chronosio.com. And if you want to sell cards on eBay and you'd like the pros to handle it for you, I can be your contact for Slab Sharks and help you get your cards out there onto the market and bring you some money so you can go out and buy more cards. Guys, this show is available wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Check it out. Leave a rating, leave a review. So follow and subscribe for free. Greatly appreciate it, guys. And always, big thanks to all of our loyal viewers and listeners. Always do appreciate you guys. This is a wonderful community. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. And as always, tonight, your comments and your questions will be in play. And I really think we have a great show tonight. I'm actually really excited for this one. We have one less guest than we usually have because I wanted to have extra room for Mr. Paul Lesko, Mr. Tyler Nethercott. We've got Leighton Sheldon joining us, as well as Chris Hoge coming on at the end to close things out. But before any of those guys, we've got our co-host, my right-hand man, my good buddy from Santa Cruz, California, Mr. Joe Perot. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, Jay Lee? Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too. Looks like I'll be bringing the energy tonight. I'm just kidding. I know you're tired. You had a late night. You were actually at the Warriors game last night. Were you not? How are you feeling today?
Well, it's always exciting going up to the city, and we didn't get the win, unfortunately. So we're going to a Game 7 tomorrow. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm feeling all right. Thanks. I'm feeling all right.
Very good. Very good. Well, the playoffs are upon us, both basketball and hockey. And we got a Game 7 hockey going on right now. Dallas, Colorado. Colorado was up 1-0 last I checked, but I saw someone put in the chat they're up 2-0 now at the end of the set. Yeah, at the beginning of the third period, Colorado looks like they might take Game 7 and move things along. It's exciting, guys. And by the way, so I came back from the Sport Card Expo in Toronto just here late last Sunday, early Monday morning, and I did pick up my big card, Joe. So for everyone who wants to count, how long does it take Jeremy to mention his Joe Jackson into the show? We're 5.5 minutes in, and I'm gonna share with you guys. I have it in hand, and it is even more glorious than I thought it would be, than I could tell when I looked at it on the auction platform in 2 dimensions. And she's a beauty, and I am super, super excited to have it. And the first tranche of cards that I am now moving in order to pay off the debt to acquire this are listed and up. A bunch are listed and up on Slab Sharks ending on Thursday. I think I'm going to do a kind of a pop-up episode here, maybe on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday this coming week, showing a bunch of those. And I brought in some big lots from clients there as well. So some awesome stuff going off on Slab Sharks. So excited about that. Joe, I picked up some other cards at the expo, though. You want to see them?
I do, but can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Remember when we were assessing the Joe Jackson, we were kind of looking at its almost parchment-like quality of the paper stock. And I noticed that you and are actually, Greg was mentioning this, how challenging it can be in a 2-dimensional image to sort of notice the card. And I just kind of want to hear you say, how does the card look in hand? And what do you notice about it that maybe you didn't notice, even though I know Fanatics gives like those sort of 3-dimensional spins? Are there aspects of the card that present differently in real life or in 3 dimensions than you didn't notice before?
I find I'm like more challenged to understand why it's only a 1.5. Like, I've had it sitting on a card stand on my desk for a couple of days, and I just sit and I just kind of look at it and enjoy it. And in the morning, the sun comes through the window on the other side of my screen here, and I can actually, like, even here, I can see the writing on the back coming through the front. That's how thin it is, but not such that when I put my hand, like this, you cannot see it at all, which is great, I think. But yeah, it's a very thin card. But it's wonderful. It's like, if this were to be in a PSA 7 holder, I wouldn't blink an eye. I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. So I don't even know, but that's the beautiful thing. The eye appeal is through the roof. So,
well, I hope I get to see it in person at some point. So what'd you pick up at the expo? Spill the beans.
Well, I'll go kind of quickly here. I picked up some hockey. I picked up some baseball, but I picked up some nice Ovechkin cards. This is a nice remnants out of 20 quad patch, non-auto. This is a beautiful Upper Deck Ultimate Collection dual patch auto with a nice patch on this side here, numbered out of 10. And then this was really cool. Well, first I'll show this, a premium swatch Ovechkin out of 25. These are all like 1 of 25. All these ones I'm showing are the 1 of 10 or 1 of 25. That's what this guy was collecting. And then I picked up these 2 for my cup patch collection from 2 different years. But what's awesome is that this one here is an upgrade from this one. So I had this one already. Now I have the one with the star. And then my buddy Sam, who sets up my booth with me, I traded him this. So I have to send this to him, and he let me leave with this. So I got this Quinn Hughes, who's one of probably the 2nd or 3rd best defenseman in the league. And this is an SB Authentic limited auto patch, numbered out of 25, and it's a short print, and it's just beautiful on card auto from the Vancouver Canucks. So I traded the upgraded Ovechkin for this, so that's pretty cool. From my buddy, the Cartel Aton, he sold me this Johnny Gaudreau, beautiful super rookie Upper Deck Premier, a tribute design. Again, of course, rest in peace to Johnny and his brother Matthew Gaudreau. And then this was awesome. This was on Kenny Richardson from Pastime Sports. He had this in his booth. I was chatting with him. I looked down. I see this sitting in the showcase. It's a Ricky Henderson rookie card. I wanted one. I didn't have one.
There you go.
And it's a PSA 7. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, that thing looks absolutely beautiful. And it is. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not a perfect card, but under the loop, you can see a little bit of white coming off in the tips of the corners, but can't see with the naked eye. So picked up my Ricky Henderson rookie card. Really happy with that. And then I picked up a Leaf card from Leaf Pearl 2018. This is a 1 of 1 Legend of Sports with game used memorabilia. It's got Babe Ruth, George Vezina, so Babe Ruth baseball, George Vezina hockey, Pele for soccer, and Muhammad Ali. So a really cool goat type of card. It's It's in a PSA 8 holder, which doesn't really matter. It's just a beautiful, beautiful card of those four guys. What else can I show you? I got from my friends at Mint Inc. I got this 2016 Fleer Showcase Austin Matthews rookie card out of 25. It's the Violet. I don't know what the exact name is. Just Ultra Rookie Violet. Really cool. And like you get the it's a PSA 9, whatever, but it's out of 25, and you get it for about the price of a PSA 10 Young Guns, which there's like 50,000 up. There's only 25 of these, so just an absolute steal of a deal on that. And then I'll show you three more. This guy, Connor Hellebuck, having a terrible road series against the St. Louis Blues, but a great home series. So they're going to Game 7 tomorrow. We'll see what happens. This is his O-Pee-Chee Platinum Gold Seismic rookie card, BGS 95. And then a couple of my favorites. I'll start with this one. This was the first card I bought. I saw it at the guy's name is Frank. He goes by the Cash Man on Facebook and stuff. But I bought this from him. This is a 2000, I think a 21. I can't even tell. It's so small, but exquisite patch of Guy Lafleur. Ooh. And this is just a vintage piece of memorabilia, 10 copies made. And it's one of those cards. It's, you walk up to a booth at the show and people say, hey, anything in particular you're looking for? I say, no, just whatever catches my eye. Well, this is one of those cases. This caught my eye and I laid down for it. I took it. I love it. Really happy with that. And then nice. my favorite pickup, Joe.
Yeah.
I picked this up. The show ended at 5 o'clock on Sunday. I picked this up at probably 3:30. I got this from long-haired Larry, big vintage guy who does the National as well. I wanted this card. Some of you might remember during a previous episode of Fanatics Collect auction ending watch parties, I was bidding on one of these, but I got outbid. Well, I got the card finally. It's the 1951 Bowman Yogi Berra, and it's just gorgeous. It's in a PSA 5 holder. I love everything about this card, and I've just had these two sitting beside each other, enjoying them together for the last couple of days. Yeah, just love them. So those are the pickups. Not a lot, but it was a great show. Got to interview some of the signing guests, Raymond Bork and Dominic Hasek and Mark Giordano. And Mike Richter was the second time I'd interviewed Mike Richter. So that was great. Hosted a couple panels on the main stage with other content creators. It was just great, man. It was just a great time overall.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with Midlife. He's saying, the liquidation period's over. It's back to acquisitions. Hilarious. I love that Berra though. That's just a classic card. Was that a PSA 4? The Berra?
It's a PSA 5.
5. Okay.
Yeah, but it's another one of those cards that I'm just glad because this could have been on any other given day. Maybe a few years ago, who knows? This could have been a 7, 7.5, maybe even an 8. I'm not sure. It is a little. The centering side to side is perfect, or close to. Top to bottom, it is definitely a little bit low, but I prefer that as far as off center goes. I'd prefer it be a vertical off centeredness versus a horizontal. So, but I just love this card. Super clean, no print defect, just beautiful.
Yeah, I've got one in a 2.5, an old BVG holder. And this might come up in our discussion later, but one of my projects right now is actually transitioning a number of my BVG slabs into SGC slabs. So that might be in the queue to get crossed over at some point. But yeah, great pickups, man. Congratulations.
Thanks. So at the Toronto Expo, the Thursday night, I host an event. I had to leave early and go to my hotel room to do the Fanatics Collect premiere show. And if anyone watched, I don't know if you saw, it was pretty funny, sort of funny. It was very stressful for me, but I almost couldn't do it. I couldn't get internet. Finally, Mikey from the Expo and the Strongsville show delivered me an internet hub, and I go live, and I'm sitting there at my desk in the hotel room, and I start doing the show. And next thing, what do you know? But I hear smashing on the wall from the room beside me.
Well, we heard it too. We heard it too. You could hear it on the show. It was like.
Could you actually hear the banging?
I did the first go around, and you were like, it was almost like it was staged or something. I think I need to go deal with this.
Yeah, it was crazy to the point where they sent up the hotel management came to my door. I had to say, Adam, Adam, hang on, hold court. I'll be right back. And they're like, yeah, can you keep it down? I'm like, guy, if you want to give me an office or somewhere to do this, another room, I'll move, or they can move, so I just kind of lowered my voice for the rest of the night, and we got her done. But that was crazy. Yeah. Never experienced something like that before.
It was like the postman always delivers, the Jay Lee always delivers, the sports card.
Yeah. And before we go to comments, so last time on the show here, which was 2 weeks ago, we didn't do one last week. Obviously, I was in Toronto, but last show we paid tribute to the passing of Tim Brommer from Hockey Cards Only. He was a national dealer for a long time, and just want to send condolences to Tim's family and friends and hobby associates and everything. A great guy who I bought a card from in Cleveland last year, and sorry I won't get to see him again. And then, of course, we were all surprised, shocked, and saddened to learn about Orlando from A Collector's Dream. He let everybody know that he had lung cancer and he was going under the knife just here. I believe it was on Wednesday or Thursday. And he had an operation to have a third of his lung removed. And he put up a video basically saying, this might be my final video. This is the video right here, as you can see. I'm not going to play it, but it's 15 minutes long, and it's him going for a walk, telling us about that. 5,700 views, 576 comments, 644 likes. Just shows the support that Orlando has. And I said in a comment, Orlando, you're kind of the glue that holds this community together in a lot of ways. I think all paths come back to Orlando. He's in everybody's chat and comments. Such a nice guy. Whenever you see him, supports everybody, whether you're new to the hobby, new to YouTube or not. Just a wonderful member of the hobby. We're so fortunate to have him. He's had his operation. It appears it was a success. That's wonderful. Super happy for him. And then Tony, Southern Collector 14 on his channel, did a tribute video where he solicited about 40, I don't know how many exactly, but like a bunch, dozens of content creators to do a tribute video for him. So if anyone wants to watch that, that's right over here on Southern Collector's YouTube channel. And this is the thumbnail for it here. And he actually does, in the description, show all the YouTube channels of people that took part in this. And I was just super honored to be a part of that. So check out these videos, Southern Collector's video, check out Orlando's video, of course. And can't wait for Orlando's next walk and talk video where he just, shares his life and hobby with the rest of us. So all the best to you, Orlando. If you're watching, you have the whole community support. That goes without saying. It's become obvious. So just want to wish him all the best as he recovers and does so well enough that we get to see him at the National in Chicago at the end of July, beginning of August. Let's go to some comments, Joe. Let's go to some comments. Pick Six Cards in the house. Good evening, Laura. Good evening to Laura. Stooks is here. What's going on, Stooks? Glad you had a good day at the Dallas show. I heard it was a decent show. Mike Petty says, where's Peter? We're going to get to that. Linda's first. Good evening to you. Michael Ham in the house there. How's it going, Ham? Good to see you, buddy. Steve Clifton is here. Robert Scott. Good evening, fellas. Good to see you both. Jeff McMahon says, get well soon, Orlando. We got Jacob Dahl in the house. We got Mark Santucci. Mark, as mentioned, it was really good. Mike Petty wants to know again, where's Peter? E-Dub in the house. What's going on, E-Dub? Good to see you. Mike Double V is here. Chris C is here. Wax Pack Wisdom is here, as well as Kevin Hawthorne. Midlife Sports Cards. Greg has got his popcorn ready to go. Check out the video I did with Greg. We just released it yesterday. I'm doing a Road to the National series in partnership with the National Sport Collectors Convention, which we call the National, and dropped one of 6 episodes. Greg was my guest. We got 5 more coming over the next couple of months. Hello, Yankees fan. Welcome to the show. Piccolina the Cat, good evening to you. Mookie Chilson is here as well. Triple V is here as well. We got Called Shot Cards. Hello to you. And that's where I had, now I'm going freestyle on these comments. Was able to mark those ones down, but we keep on going. Oh yeah, baby's home, Petty. That's right. Thank you, Michael Ham. Landeskog is back, Hobby Champs. Welcome to the show. Thank you, Wax Pack Wisdom. Linda's first. I feel like we're losing Jeremy to vintage more and more with each passing day. You never had me though, Linda's. I've been a vintage collector since 1988. That's when I started going down my vintage path, when I decided to collect the rookie card of every 1,000-point man in NHL history. I got that project done 30 years ago now, probably. And so I've always been a vintage collector, but you're not going to lose me. I love the modern too. Stukes, thank you so much for that. Laura, secure that card properly in that car seat, in that card. What's a car in the car seat? I got it, Laura. Thank you, Triple V. Appreciate that. Blame the 1.5 on AI, says Stukes. Chris C, I appreciate it. Hobby Champs, have you thought of cracking the Jackson, soaking it in Kurt's juice for a grade bump? No, that hasn't even crossed my mind, except when I hear the suggestion from people in the chat, which I've heard more than I would care to think I would hear. That'll never, ever happen. People say to me, why don't you crack it and just resubmit it? Not a chance. I'm not giving them more money to do it what they should have done right the first time. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. There could be a technical flaw with the card that it is truly 1.5. And I can't see that technical flaw, which is just more value for me, really. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Michael. You saw some hockey coming out there for sure. Pastor Craig, what's happening? Welcome to the show. Calabria, good to see you. Jeremy is the definition of collusion. Okay, Calabria, thanks for coming to the show. And seems like you really know what you're talking about. Foul Ball, good evening. Good evening to you, the professor. Good evening to you. Craig says, Jeremy's liquidation periods to pay for grails has more buying than my shopping sprees. How about those pickups? You know, I couldn't not do anything at the expo, right, Joe? Like,
you could.
I had one showcase with stuff in it because everything went out in my towards the Joe Jackson. Everything went out for that. So I had some old albums that you'd put like 51, 52 Parkhurst albums, a 33 O-Pee-Chee album, just things that I had sitting on display that I was ready to move on from. That's all I really had in a couple of graded wrappers I had in my showcases. Those came back with me. And then as I picked up cards, I just put them in. I didn't sell them. I didn't price them. And I just wanted somewhere to put them. And, but I had my deal flow was the lowest it's ever been since I started setting up at a card show. And I missed the deal flow. So I got to get back into that and find some more cards to take to be able to it's so much fun doing deals at card shows at the table. Awesome, Barra. Thank you, Jacob Dahl. I appreciate that, guys. All of these great comments. Thank you, everybody, for the support and all. Yes, Matthew. Orlando is the man. The surgery went well. Chris says he's going to be back, and he's like the Jim Tomei of the hobby. He is super nice. Orlando sure is super nice. Yeah, everyone's praying for Orlando, no doubt. Appreciate all these comments here for him. I hope he's watching or listening to this now or eventually. Hello, Junk Wax Museum. Welcome to the show. Appreciate that. Aloha, Hawaiian 5-0. Good to see you. Producer Louie, got to see you at Expo. Yes, it is over already. And Louie, great pickups you had. I just saw them on the Gong Show's Instagram. Well done. Well done. Good evening, Lonely Basement Baseball Cards. Good to see you. I know you were kidding, Hobby Chat, but I mean, it's a legit question that people ask. Some people think maybe you're going to do it. And it's not just about Kurt's product. It's also about the resubmitting of a card that you feel is undergraded. And are you going to resubmit it to try to get a higher grade? For me, the answer is a hard no. I don't know. Maybe you need to talk some sense into me, Joe. Maybe the chat needs to talk some sense into me. I like this card. I think. I like this card as a 1.5. If it was a 2 or a 2.5 or a 3 or any number higher, I don't know that I'd like it as much. Now, the card's the card. I understand. But the holder it's in, I just think that the 1.5 makes it so darn cool. And I think the lower the grade, when you have high eye appeal, the better value that you are getting. So to me, I feel like I won the lottery kind of thing, being able to get this card in a 1.5. Because if this was a 5 or a 6, which it looks like, it could have been twice the price or more, and I wouldn't have been able to acquire it. I don't care what the technical grade is. I get so much gratification from the low grade, high eye appeal. I'm more impressed by, never mind, it's weird to say I'm so impressed by my own card, but if someone shows next I'm going to say Ricky Henderson. I just picked up a PSA 7 Ricky Henderson. But if you look at Matty C Collections Instagram, and he'll put up 2 cards beside each other, one's a PSA 8 and one's a PSA 2. And the 2 just looks better than the 8. I'm so much more impressed by the collector who picks up the 2 than the collector who picks up the 8. Or even more drastic, a PSA 9 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle. You show me a perfectly centered PSA 3 or 4. That's going to get my envy, and I'm going to be so impressed by your eye. So much more. I will be so much more impressed by you as a collector and a hobbyist for buying that super low grade, beautiful eye appeal card than I will that, because you can dish out millions of dollars. That doesn't impress me. I'm impressed by the low grade, high ie appeal and the people that find those. That's where I'm just like, wow. It's like, was it? I forget which member of the podcast was it Matthew or was it Nate that just showed in Cardboard Veritas that showed a 1957 Topps Mickey Mantle, or was it the 53 Bowman Mantle? No, it was the 53 Bowman Mantle in a low grade, but it looked like way nicer. I was like, that impresses me so much. So, how about you, Joe? What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, if resources, if resources were unlimited, even then, there's oftentimes lower technical grades that just shine more brightly than some that might have it. But certainly not in my world. Resources are limited, so you're really just leveraging other opportunities, and you generally have that. Like for me, that little bit of paper loss on the reverse, I love that. That's like a hack for getting into a card with amazing eye appeal, and even sometimes a little bit on the front if it's subtle enough. Because of course it's almost impossible to even get a 2 with paper loss. So you're already at 1.5 or 1, but from there, the rest of the card might be incredibly fresh and vibrant. And as we know, sometimes that paper loss is the byproduct of people keeping them more well preserved, say in some kind of scrapbook, or in a way that was protecting the card, meant to protect the card, but had one small little detriment to it. And I'd be curious about the story of your Joe Jackson, how it was stored, how it was kept in its relatively pristine state all these years, notwithstanding whatever amounted to the technical grade deduction, maybe a little paper loss or maybe a little crinkle that's not apparent to the naked eye. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well said. I do know that the card was originally sold by an owner who had it since 1982, I believe he said. And then he sold it on Heritage, who had it graded by SGC prior to selling. They graded an SGC 2.5. This exact card was in an SGC 2.5 holder. And I don't care about the grade, but I love that both SGC and PSA have graded this card. They both have asserted its authenticity. Yeah. I mean, to me, I got both of those opinions on it. Yeah. So I'm pretty happy about that. And then it was purchased by Patrick Ryan on Heritage back in, I think it was 2021 or 21, I think. And he cracked it open, and he did that. That's on video. You can see that on a YouTube video, him cracking it open, and he sent it to PSA, and then they graded it, and now I have it. So yeah.
So to your knowledge, when it was graded by SGC, that was not too long ago for the auction. Would you say it was Heritage that auctioned it off?
Yeah,
Heritage. That was the first time the card had been graded.
I believe so. Yeah, because the owner up until then owned it since 82, which is is well before grading. So yeah, it was. And I don't know how he stored it, but I should ask him. I've been in communication with him. So
yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask you to get out your pliers or do anything. I think
snip it. Canada to California here. There we go. No. All right, let's go to some more comments. Leighton's going to be joining us any minute now, so let's just go back here. Petty said, I need to restock the hockey. That is true. Linda's first said the Berra looks like a modern retro card. It's so nice. Oh my God. I can't wait to show Leighton when he comes on the screen. I'll show it to him again. Mookie Chilson says, we'll see Orlando before we see Peter. Jeff McMahon Had our first local show this weekend since Tim passed away. Really missed seeing him there. Rest in peace, Tim. Yes. Rest in peace, Tim. 100%. Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Good evening to you. He says, thank you so much for your video for Orlando, Jeremy. Well, same to you, Dan. Thank you for yours. It was great to hear everybody's tributes to Orlando, for sure. That was just wonderful. Big kudos to Tony. Laura says, you collected what you liked, period, ended. Exactly. Foul Ball says, graded cards are not cool, period, full stop. Guys, that's it. Graded cards are no longer cool. Welcome to the show, Foul Ball. Rod Jameson says, always buy the card. Here. I think you're going to find a lot of people that feel that way too in this chat, Rod. Edub says, love it. Eye appeal over grade number every time. Yes. Dan, thank you. I did get there before I saw your comment, Dan. I did land on what the card was. It was Matthew. Thank you very much. Vintage Oddball, he says, taking from experience, don't let them being PSA touch that Joe Jackson. It's not worth the gamble. Yeah, there's no need to break it out of the slab. I love it in the slab it's in. Mike Petty says, it's a novelty card like the Gretzky McNall T206 Honus Wagner. Notice I said Honus. I'll get back to that in 1 second. Will only go up in value over the years in that same holder just because. I agree. Mike Petty, and I appreciate it. Hobby Champ says, only way I'm going to go for a grade bump is from low end. 2 different grading companies, like a BGS to a PSA, etc. Cracking a $100,000 plus card would stop my heart. Mine too. Foul Ball says, a nice raw card is way more impressive than one in thick plastic. But the card's the card. So, I mean, to me, judge the card. If you like the holder it's in, that's really whatever you like, in my opinion. And Linda's first says, connoisseurs, buy the card, not the grade. Here, could not agree more with that one as well. But Hobby Champ says, not if I'm buying a Foul Ball, give that get that authentication security. And I do, or give me the authentication security. I do agree. Michael Stone, what's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show. Rice Bonds, Montana to Young. Jeremy, making live comments central to your show changed the game. Some of our best essential credential episodes have benefited directly. Big fan of your show. Congrats on the monster pickup. Alan, I've known you for like 20 years, dude. So you don't even have to sign off your name. Back to the old early Hobby Insider days. Great to see you here in the chat. Ben Hostler, good to see you, Ben, from Rolling Insights. Yitz, was great seeing you at the show as well. What is Hobby Champs? No one pooping on grading is throwing down big money on raw cards. Nope. And let's see. I'm going to start reading this guy's comments before I put them on the screen. Piggy Spanks. Graded sealers are going to ruin it for a lot of people who don't know the difference. China selling them like crazy. Be careful out there, people. Be careful. Let's bring Leighton on the show. Joe, let's bring out Leighton. Leighton, you good to go?
Leighton.
Welcome. How are you?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks.
There we go.
See you, Leighton.
It's good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Hey, did you see the Yogi Berra card that I picked up?
No.
I'm going to show you.
Oh, 51 Bowman. Very nice.
Beautiful, right?
I can't see.
You don't need to see the grade. The grade doesn't matter.
Yeah,
look at that
I
beauty.
Can't see, it looks centered, but it's tough to tell with the 3 of us on the screen. I'm only on my phone.
It is centered side to side, but it sits low. It's sitting low on the cardboard, but it's a beauty. It's a beauty.
Congrats.
Thank you. Very happy to have added it at the expo. I bought it from Long Hair Larry, who you well know.
Yes,
Yeah, it was great. So Leighton, listen, I want to talk to you about, I think we should chat. I've seen some headlines in the last couple of days about the T206 Honus Wagner that sold the restored copy in the PSA holder. And I have 3 headlines I'm going to share with you. Now, before we do that, I'm saying Honus. So I was watching one of my buddies' videos that, I don't know which was it on 4 Collectors, or was it on Dan's, or was it on Greg's? I'm not sure where it was anymore, but they were talking about how to say Honus Wagner. Everyone says Honus Wagner. So they're saying, well, it's Honus. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, how do you say Honus Wagner? And it said it's HOH, like ho, like it's Honus, right? And then I said, are you sure? And it said, actually, thanks for checking me on that. It's not. It's Honus Wagner, and it it found some references to when Honus himself said it. It's like Johann. His name was Johannes or something like that. So it's the proper pronunciation according to ChatGPT after I pushed it is Honus Wagner, and I'm going to start saying it that way. And it might be hard for me to do that, but I think I'm going to start saying Honus Wagner moving forward. What do you think, Leighton? What do you know of that?
I'm going to go with HW.
HW. Yeah, just keep it simple, right?
You know, we were very tight. You know, our families knew each other. It's what works for me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
In California, we'll just say the Wagner.
That's it. That's all you need to know. But so what happened, guys, is this restored copy, authentic restored copy, PSA slabbed, sold for $1.98 million just this past week. And the same card sold a year and a half earlier for like $12,000 less. So let me show you guys a few of the headlines that came out on this sale. And the first one is on Collect, CLLCT, says why the $2 million price for the T206 Honus Wagner is a major cause for concern. Saturday sale is a 4-alarm fire for the market of the world's most famous card. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is way overblown. And I think this is a bit clickbaity here. And I don't really agree with the tone of the headline. Let's go to Sports Illustrated. The T206 Wagner sells for record auction price, which is true. It sold for more than it sold for the time before. And then let's go to Sports Collectors Daily. T206 Wagner nets $1.98 million. Only Collect put a 4-alarm fire spin on the sale. Now, the reason why they did that, and I guess the reason why these two didn't is because these two, I think, understand it a bit more than this article does. And why I say that is because in the past, no one's ever lost money. You buy a Honus Wagner, and you hold it for a few years. You hold it, like, whether that's 5, 10, 20 years, everyone's always made money. This time, the seller did not make a lot of money. $12,000. You got to also obviously figure what happens with buyer's premiums or seller fees and all this, but it's likely they didn't lose money on it, is my guess. But the seller only held it for a year and a half. And it's a restored card. And it's still sold for $2 million a year and a half after one of the highest points of our hobby. So I don't think it's at all, as they say here, a major cause for concern. It's a 4-alarm fire. Like, what is the purpose of this headline? Is it like, it's got to be clickbait? That's the only reason I can see why Collect, led by Darren. I know you're a good friend, Leighton, Darren Ravel, someone I never really have. I don't think I've really met him in person, but certainly seen him at card shows and know him. And you know, we've had on one of the Collect writers on the show here several times. This is written by Will Stern, and I mean, it's got to be clickbait, Leighton. Why do you think they put this headline on there? And then I want to get Joe's thoughts as well. Why do you think they went with such a silly headline, Joe, Leighton?
So, Jeremy, first, I want to commend you for being well prepared. You had everything laid out there. Second of all, I actually read that article. I had no idea that you were going to bring it up today, but I had read that article because, you know, listen, I wanted to stay on top of what maybe was a 4-alarm fire on the hobby's most significant card. And so before I read it, I had a guess. And then after I read it, I had an opinion, and I'll share it with you in a second. So before I read it, I'm like, oh my God, was there a fine? I swear to God, guys. I'm like, this restored copy got out other restored copies. There's like 3 more, and people are losing their minds. And I read the article, and I'm literally talking to myself and out loud, guys. I'm like, what the F is going on? And so, Jeremy, very, very astute of you to point out the different articles and the type of, if you will, titles. I don't know Will personally, but I do know Darren. And I would just say that everyone has their own style. And I read it because it caught my attention. So were they trying to catch people's attention? I think they certainly were. But to be fair, they're in the attention business, as Gary would like to say. So yes, I think it's an exaggeration, but you're allowed to take the information and decide whatever you'd like to do with it. I think if nothing else, it goes to show you that forget about the Wagner, and I'm definitely not going to try to pronounce his first name. So I think that this should caution all of us as collectors, at least in the card space. I'm not talking memorabilia. I'm not talking anything else. But in cards, just to at least be cognizant and leery when not only you're going to authentic, but when you're going to authentic altered, and it could be authentic altered restored. Maybe you're not sure. So I'm just saying to be careful, because if the hobby's most coveted card is having, and I don't think it's a problem, but I agree with you, Jeremy, a year and a half isn't a heck of a lot of time. At the same time, we see Michael Jordan cards flipped in 90 days that go up. Now, they're not $1.98 million, but nonetheless, they make a profit. So I just think that we can take away from this, that we should throw some caution into the wind when dealing with things that maybe aren't as if, whether it be partially restored, fully restored, a quarter restored, and then just keep that in mind when you're going to be thinking about how much money you're going to pay for that item.
Fair comments, fair diplomatic comments, Leighton, which I love about you. Joe, what do you think? And just to bring the card on the screen one more time so we can see it here, and hopefully this is, can't really make it much bigger than that. There we go. But it does say, you know, restored and authentic there, restored, no grade. It was obviously the border was cut up, was really trimmed down quite substantially. It is a nice looking card though for what it is. But Joe, what are your thoughts on this card? What, you know, the fact that it only sold for $12,000 more than it did a year and a half earlier, and that, you know, some media outlets are calling it a 4-alarm fire, and some are just calling it what it is. It's a sale of a big card.
I did not read the article, and I guess what I would want explained in the article is whether the context of the vintage card market, the sort of backdrop, if you will, of vintage cards was such that this represents almost a falling behind of the trajectory overall of the market. I don't know if it goes into that or not. On first blush, what catches my eye though is just the restoration conversation has been something that I've heard from time to time. It seems like most vintage card collectors are pretty staunch purists, but obviously if you encounter a card the magnitude of the Wagner, I think everyone is open to making exceptions. But the curiosity I would have with this is where are we trending in the vintage card market? You know, maybe not at the levels of the Wagner, but are people, if it's acknowledged as restored or altered and it's encased and you're selling it, you know, on the up and up, we don't always know exactly what was done. But I'm curious where that conversation is headed, because I know people have talked about the comparison of comic books where maybe there's a more common acceptance of restoration. And my sense is that card collectors, especially vintage baseball card collectors, which is mostly who I know, they don't like that. But I'm curious, and maybe Leighton has some sense of that, or you, Jeremy. I'm okay with it if it's labeled as such, if I can appreciate the card. That particular Wagner meets my standard of looking close enough to something. I mean, I'd have to inspect it to even see how it was restored. It's probably traceable. It's probably noticeable if you have it in hand. But you know, as long as it's you know, articulated in the slab, I'd be very happy to own that card.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, just looking at comments, Dan says it well right here. Vintage purists are for the truth. This card is clearly labeled. It's labeled authentic and restored very clearly. So I think that is exactly what PSA should have done and did do on that card. So I'm definitely a fan of the slab or the label, the description on the label itself. Couple other comments here, guys. Dan did say the 4-alarm fire was from all the fingerprints on the case, from all of us holding it at Strongsville, because it was. at Strongsville. Midlife, Greg says, when they had ChatGPT to write that headline, they should have asked, are you sure? Just like I didn't know how to pronounce Honus. Very good, Greg. Very good. Mookie Chilson says, hyperbole is a heck of a drug. Yeah, no doubt. And good for clicks as well. Peeps, good evening to you. Says, I'll take these things into consideration when I buy my Wagner. Yeah, no doubt. Anthony said here, Jeremy's going to end up on chasing cardboard trying to liquidate his collection to pay for the Shoeless Joe. I've done that. I've gone through that. Those cards that I needed to pay for the Shoeless Joe are out of my possession, and they are now in the process of being turned to paying off my debt. Vintage says, I wouldn't call the sale price of the Wagner alarming, but perhaps somewhat surprising or disappointing. Maybe disappointing to the seller, but I just don't think it's that big of a deal personally. And Greg says, I held that card in my hands. It was so restored, it didn't even look like a T206 card. Okay. That's interesting right there, I find. Yeah. That didn't even look like one. Very interesting comment there. And I did not hold it in hand, but I did look at it, and it does look worked on. It looks like one, it looks like, my wife sometimes likes to watch some of these housewives shows, and I'll walk in and I'll look up and be like, is that a human on the screen? Like, she's been so worked on type of thing. Sometimes the dudes too have been so worked on. So yeah. Okay. Guys, let's do this now. Let's bring T-Pott on. Tyler Nethercott of Market Movers Sports Card Investor is in the back room. We're going to bring him on, and Leighton, both him and you were at the Tops conference. So I'm hoping between the two of you, you can enlighten us with some of the takeaways. And let's also get T-Pott's thoughts on the Wagner. T-Pott, you good to go? There, he's good to go. Tyler Nethercott, Ty, a.k.a. T-Pott from Market Mover Sports Card Investor. Welcome back to the show, buddy. How are you?
Thanks, Jeremy. It's been too long. I'm doing great. It's definitely Honus, 100%. As someone with German heritage and a German exchange student in high school named Johannes, it's definitely Honus. In fact, I ran an Instagram poll last year asking people how they pronounce it, and I think it was a 65-35 say Honus. But it is definitely Honus. But hey, I have friends from Chicago who say Chicago too. So, I guess teach their own.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the additional validation on what I found out from ChatGPT and the sale. You saw the sale, $1.98 million, only 12,000 more than last time. I watched the episode that you and Doug and Jeff Wilson did. And no one on your panel was disappointed or thought that it was a 4-alarm fire sort of thing. Do you think that Collect, the media outlet, maybe just overdid the headline, and or do you think that there is an issue here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd call it a case of agree to disagree. In that case with Will, it was a bit confusing to me. I see stability in this particular time, especially with some tepidity around things, and there's a little bit of concern. It's also kind of a down time of the year. Every single year, April into May is like a slow time. Vintage cards like this that don't really come up very often tend to be immune from that, but I don't see this card basically, more or less in the grand scheme of things, selling for what it did a couple of years ago as any kind of concern whatsoever. In fact, I feel like that just shows a lot of confidence in the hobby continuing to go forward, not some kind of panic.
Yeah, I'm with you. And by the way, say hi to Leighton and Joe. Guys, say hi to Ty. Yeah. Welcome to the... There you go.
Hey guys, good to see you again, Leighton. Yeah, we bumped into each other briefly at the Tops conference, and Joe, it's been I've always seen you on here many times, so good to meet you live.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Well, so why don't we talk a bit about the Tops conference? There were a few things that came out of it that I found interesting from watching your show, T-Pott, and I also watched or listened on my walk. Last night, I listened to the Sports Cards Nonsense podcast on it with Gio, and I listened to what Mike Gio was saying, and I got a big kick out of the episode. But it seemed to me like there was a lot of good stuff that came out of it. What are some of the? If you both, maybe let's go back and forth. Well, you just joined, Ty. What was one of the highlights that you learned? Some new information.
This was my first time going, and honestly, I didn't really know what to expect in terms of schedule and agenda. First, it was just a great opportunity to get to mingle and talk to a lot of shop owners. So that's basically the bulk of who was there, and hearing their pain points and stories to me was like probably the best pulse on the hobby overall, just in terms of its health, is to get down to the level of the local card shop owner and ask them, how has it been going? And overall, everybody was saying, I'm had a record year last year. It's going really well. We grew, we're renovating, we moved, like all those types of things. The main pain point I heard was generally staffing and just trying to get enough allocation of wax and buy enough cards. Like everybody's out trying to do that. It's pretty competitive, but trying to get good, trustworthy, reputable employees to work from you, to not steal from you, to know what they're doing, to care about their jobs was for sure the main pain point that I heard. So that was the first thing that stood out to me. And then just getting a chance to hear about all the product lineups was the other big piece that, you know, stood out. I think they were smart this year. They saved it for Tuesday morning, which was the last day of the conference. So they kind of kept us all on the edge of our seat until the final moments, and then just went through systematically each sport and talked to us about what they're planning to do this upcoming year, where they're putting their energy, sports and non-sports. And so there's definitely a lot to unpack in there. I can go into more details, but give Leighton a chance too.
Yeah, let's go to Leighton. So thanks. That's a great overview. Leighton, can you give us a piece, like some, I don't know, piece of information that was, maybe new to the hobby? There's a couple that I've already clued into, but I'd love it if you could bring one to us, or I can mention the ones I'm thinking of myself. But what was the biggest takeaway for you, Leighton?
Sure. Well, just to be more specific, because I think T-Pott did a great job of, providing an overview, at least from a vintage standpoint, right? So they're going to have Willie Mays, related memorabilia, inserted into products, from my recollection. I think that was kind of cool. And then I think they're going to have dual signed. In some cases, it looks like they're going to match up, let's say, like a Nolan Ryan, maybe with a current star, and they're going to make it a 1-of-1. And then, they talked about, I think, the gold MLB logo program and what they're doing with that. And really, they're taking what I guess they, meaning the Fanatics and Topps team, have learned what is done so well as far as the logo man for football and basketball for Panini the last several years. I mean, really, I was quite impressed seeing what Topps is going to be doing. And keep in mind, it's not like Topps has been owned by Fanatics for 10 years. It's a couple of years. So for me, along with T-Pott, this was my first formal Topps conference as a shop owner, and dove right in, and everything was very impressive as far as the presentation, the amount of information, and actually wanted to give just a shout out to all the shop owners, because everyone, like, they were there. There was some presentations where you had to stand in the back, meaning in a good way. It was very well attended, and it seems like everyone was taking it very seriously, which I think, overall is going to uplift, the entire space.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Joe, did you catch any content anyone put out on the Topps conference? Anything stick out to you from what you've heard from listening to the show with Tyler, Doug, and Jeff, or the Sports Cards Nonsense with Mike, Gio, and Jesse? Did you pick up any takeaways for yourself?
Nothing too much other than the anticipation. I mean, I kind of got little snippets here and there of it, and the anticipation of kind of like reaching that moment where, the Topps Chrome, everything, kind of moving into licensure, and then the unification of the belts, so to speak, not belts, but kind of the universalization of the gold being to 50 and such like that. I think that brings maybe some consumer confidence, or for the collecting mindset, some consistency that is helpful and stabilizing, especially emerging out of this time where we've been living in the 2-parent family of Panini and Fanatics. So I heard it as good news, stabilizing news, and the beginning of the new era is close at hand.
Yeah, as Doug eloquently put it on your show, Ty, the unified rainbow tiers. So now the gold will be out of 50 in every product in every sport. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a great thing. My biggest takeaway might have been that we're going to get Topps Chrome SpongeBob SquarePants cards. Cannot wait for a little bit of SpongeBob to enter the collection. And then there was the red rookie card logo on the buyback program. You guys spent some time talking about that on your show, Ty. And the one thing that I thought about that you guys didn't mention, at no fault of your own, because Okay, let me just explain it first, guys. So you get one of these cards. It's got the red rookie logo. If that player wins Rookie of the Year, you'll get $100 of Fanatics fan cash. You can redeem it, or you can hold it. And if they win an MVP or a Cy Young ever, you can redeem it for $300, or hold it longer. If they win a second MVP or Cy Young, you can get $500. Or if you want to wait until they get their third MVP or Cy Young, it's $700. You want to wait till they retire and get into the Hall of Fame, it's $1,000 of Fanatics cash that you can get. And one of the big things I've heard is, who's going to wait that long? Well, here's the one thing, Ty, and you guys did a great job of explaining it, but here's what I was thinking. And maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think it's a move for them to get people to collect sets. Here's a product that you can collect a set of. And if you're going to, because there are so many people out there to this day, and, you know, someone mentioned Chasing Cardboard earlier. You watch an episode of that, they go into these rooms where there are like bookshelves filled with binders, filled with sets of cards from like every year, 40 years worth of sets. People can still do that, but now you can do it with that. And 40 years later, you might have a few gems in there that you can go redeem for $1,000 or $700, which will not be worth nearly what it is today. That's like $250 now, right? But it's still something. So the reason what I'm getting at, what I said that you guys didn't touch on, Ty, but it's fine. I mean, this is just my own thought. Maybe it's not even accurate at all, is does this new redemption buyback program, does it encourage set collecting and multi-year set collecting over time? Is this a new set that maybe Topps is trying to put in binders in people's basements as they collect the set year after year after year? Ty, can you respond to that? Am I crazy with this thought, or is it just maybe something there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't. It only a handful of players are going to win MVP or Cy Young, right, or Rookie of the Year. So if you're holding for the long term, you know, I would say we have far more multi Cy Young award winners typically maybe than we do, and maybe that's equal Cy Young and MVP in terms of like multiple times winning the award. Winning 3 is very rare. I do think the idea of holding long term for the Hall of Fame probably hurt Topps in terms of PR than it helped. Just most people were very cynical about that specifically, like, oh, with inflation that's going to be worth $500 or less to me in 25 30 years if and when, you know, whatever. There's something interesting to whether or not somebody holds on to sealed wax for that long and whether or not there's any value, you know, associated therein with something. But at that point, you typically are going to have the box be, you know, significantly more than what one of those redemptions is probably going to be worth. Overall, I just thought this was like innocuous at worst. Like, just there was nothing to like lose our minds over. And the comments on Instagram on both Topps official posts as well as the one from Sports Card Investor were just really confusing to me about this whole thing. And people like, oh, this is gambling and this is whatever. I'm like, opening packs is gambling. Like, nobody denies that. You open a pack, you're taking a gamble. And most of the time you're not going to get your money back. I have a video coming out this next week, one among many, to kind of illustrate that, almost ironically, as, you know, somebody who works directly associated with a card shop. But this is just another interesting thing. Now, some people have said, well, I'm concerned that it's another way for Topps to drive the cost of the boxes up. And I'm like, maybe not. But overall, I don't really see the harm in it. You can use that cash, from what I understand, on Fanatics Collect, on Fanatics Live, or just fanatics.com and like their apparel store. I think it's kind of interesting. And at worst, like, think of it this way, you're just getting short printed rookie cards, like red logoed short printed rookie cards of all these players. So maybe to your point, Jeremy, that does just say, I would like to chase this set. It's one step above, you know, collecting a base set, but I'd like to go after these cards. And then who knows, you know, maybe if I rack up a few of them, you know, a guy like somebody who I collect, Tarek Skubal, I probably would have picked one of these up when he was a rookie, or maybe a few. And then last year I would have cashed in, you know, when he won his Cy Young award. So I didn't really understand all of the blowback, to be honest, but
one of the things
I think it's kind of interesting.
One of the things I think is that, like, if I'm collecting cards, I'm personally not collecting them to redeem them for Fanatics cash. I'm collecting them to hold the cards for as long as I want to hold the cards for. Yeah. And if the card that I'm collecting, or the player that I'm collecting actually does something great in their career, I want to keep that card in many cases. Like that's why I'm collecting them. I want to see them have success. I want to own the card. I don't want to flip it into some Fanatics cash that I can now use to spend on other. I mean, maybe I fall out of love with the card or the player and I want to, but I don't know. I don't think it's something that I would be interested in unless I was a set collector doing binders and I put them in the binders. And again, down the road, maybe some guy that I don't care about hits it big and I can break up my set now.
I'll give you a really good example for that though, Jeremy, is like, so one thing they didn't announce as part of like the official public announcement, but I heard them say, somebody said it at the conference, was that these will not be rare. Like they will not be super rare. So Topps is sort of putting this out there and saying like, hey, at some point we expect to shell out a lot of Fanatics cash for these awards as they happen every year. I don't know if that means they are 1 in 4 packs, 1 in 20 packs, 1 in 100 packs. But if Scooble would have won that award last year, that would have been $300 or would have had that card. That's $300 for winning Cy Young. Okay. I just bought today, did a deal with a guy on Instagram, paid $300 on the nose for a red foil Bowman First numbered to 5 of Tarek Skubal. So like the trade-off was like I could have taken this, let's call it 1 in 4 pack red logo for a serial number to 5 red Skubal Bowman First. Like that's a big difference. So like I definitely hear what you're saying, but if it's sort of a commodity card at the end of the day that I can upgrade to get a more collectible card, an autograph or something else, a jersey of Skubal, like there's a lot of cool things that you can do with that.
Sure. Okay, I want to change topics, but I want to give you guys a chance to just pipe in with any comments. So, Leighton, any thoughts on this Red Redemption program?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. It's interesting to hear your thoughts, gentlemen. I was in the room when they announced it, and candidly, there was a lot of confusion. I found it straightforward enough. I agree with you, T-Pott, in terms of the Hall of Fame catching flack in the public eye. But I'll be honest, I think someone on Topps' team should have known that. It's kind of absurd to think that you're going to hold a card or even like keep track of it. I sometimes lose my driver's license, right? You're going to keep a red card of a random player for 25 years, So I think that's difficult. But I do like the idea of something like this. However, I would have done something exclusive. Some exclusive cards. The only way to get these cards or card-related items or memorabilia are from these cards. Now all of a sudden you have something, and I totally understand Fanatics wanting to brand themselves. This is a great idea to get yourselves into people's homes and get them on Fanatics.com or Fanatics Collect, so on and so forth. I just would like to see a hobby-related exclusive item be part of it, and then I think it's got some more teeth to it.
Yeah, the comment that people aren't holding these cards for 25 years. That's why I thought about all the people that do hold cards for 25 years. There is an army of them out there. And I thought, well, maybe this is a way to drive set collecting to this product. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. Joe, what are your thoughts on this after hearing all of us say our piece?
Yeah, I probably understand it the least of anyone, but it just brings to mind the kind of conversation that we've had time and time again of, how much is it the intrinsic joy of possessing the card, having the card in your collection versus some kind of more transactional, lever to a greater end with, a redemption or this gamification. So I kind of see why some people might bristle at it, the cranky pants in the chats. But I guess ultimately what I'm curious about, and maybe this speaks a little bit to what Leighton is suggesting, is this is probably just they're dipping their toes in the water to see what else is possible with, again, I don't know if gamify is the right word. And I agree with what T-Pott was saying. It's sort of a false paradigm to assume people aren't already motivated by financial gain in many instances of opening packs. But this certainly front loads it and maybe amplifies the message that is some of what's going on in the collecting world at this time.
All right, let's go to the chat for a moment. Jacob Gaudreau here says, it sounds amazing, but I also don't want Ruben to clip me. Michael Thomas says, I feel as a player collector, it would be great for a young person to collect their favorite player. Jacob Gaudreau says, it's a great sales point for breakers. I don't care and won't rip or buy any. Larry's Classic, yeah, I think it adds some value, like the MVP buybacks. Simon says, I'm with Leighton. The redemption gives you a special set instead of cash, kind of like Crash the Game redemptions from the 90s, but done better. Interesting stuff. Thank you for the comments, everybody. Okay, let's switch it up, guys. Lots of chatter on YouTube lately. A lot of the content creators that I watch talking about SGC. And I think it all started when Mike Moynihan, baseball collector, made a comment with I think it was with Greg. I watch a lot. I watch my share of content, guys. And he basically said he thinks they're going to be gone in, I think, 18 months. And then it came down to, where's Peter? What happened to Peter? And I went to his Instagram account, and I think he like cleaned that account up. There's only 5 posts on it altogether. He's got thousands of followers. And the most recent post was like 2022, I believe, something like that. I messaged him. Are you still with SGC? Haven't heard back. Maybe I have now. I'm not going to check my phone right now. So the whole thing comes down to, where is Peter and what's the future of SGC? Will PSA fold it? Will they wrap it up into, or just absorb it into PSA and get rid of it altogether? What's going to happen to SGC? And is the fact that Peter has disappeared from socials, is that indicative that there is something going on there on the senior leadership level? I don't have any of these answers, so I'll look to you guys for some thoughts on it. Who wants to go first? Ty, why don't you let us know your thoughts? Are you aware of this narrative right now? Did you know that Peter Steinberg, president of SGC, hasn't been seen for a while on social media and isn't really responding, I don't think, to people right now who have tried to reach out to him? What can you tell us, if anything? Do you even know about this?
Yeah, no, that's news to me. In fact, I could have sworn I saw a video, just had a new baby, so it's a little bit of a blur, but within the last couple of months, I thought he had put one of his usual behind the desk videos out and been talking about, in fact, he did. It was about some of the recent, delays, as he usually is quick to address. Like, hey, we're a little bit behind. We've seen a lot of influx. So that's news to me. I hadn't realized his account had kind of been whitewashed a little bit, and that he, may be missing. Overall, I think all of us kind of wondered when the announcement was made that SGC was being acquired by collectors, like, what are they going to do with them? A lot of speculation in a lot of different directions. People thought they would become like low end only, more of like a BCCG with Beckett, or, right. I kind of was of the opinion all along they would just leave them as is, which is what it's been up until now. So, but I don't have any other information outside of that.
Yeah. Oh, so I didn't mean to put that up now, but I'll read it anyway. SGC grading continues to be consistent. Returns are taking longer. I don't need Peter to do interviews to keep me sending cards to SGC. That's fair, but that's not the point. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm trying to get at the fact that we haven't seen him, and he's cleansed his accounts. I'm looking at his Twitter account or his X account right now. No posts since March of 2023. Same thing on Instagram. So if you saw him do a post recently, Ty, it looks like that might be gone, because I can't find them on X or Instagram. So I mean, that's the question. And what does that mean? The fact, like Dan says, the fact that they are still consistent, and they're taking longer to return their cards, fine. But that doesn't tell us anything about what's going on behind the scenes, what their plans are for the brand, for the company. And Darren, Return for Collecting, did a great job talking about this with a lot of M&A experience behind him. And I've got a bit myself. So I was like, yeah, that all makes sense to me. What he was saying, you buy a company, the existing leadership usually is gone very, very quickly. I'm surprised Peter lasted or is still there. Maybe he's not there anymore and they just haven't announced it yet. Who knows? But they're looking for synergies when they buy a company. They're looking to eliminate redundant services, redundant departments. And so the question does become, what is going to happen there? And listen, maybe it's nothing. Maybe this is a big old, I think they call it a nothing burger now. That might be what it is. I don't know. But what is Abel in Vegas says, PSA eliminates SGC and converts the location to a PSA grading facility based on your zip code you ship to New York, Florida, or California. That makes a lot of sense to me from a logistics perspective, synergy perspective, and an M&A perspective as well. Mark R says he posted on Facebook. Okay, Mark, thank you for that. Would love to see that. Stuke says Peter has been assimilated into collectors. Jacob Gaudreau bets his employment with SGC is ending soon. And Robert Scott says it's puzzling because of how accessible and transparent things once were. Yeah, that I agree with that comment as well. So Leighton, what about you? What do you think of all this? Do you know anything?
Nope, I don't know anything more than you guys, but I do remember, of course, the acquisition and thinking shortly after it happened, I think similar to the way that I feel today. I think SGC is a great brand. I feel similar to Dan that I don't need, messages from Peter to submit cards to them. But as I think I even talked about on my own podcast shortly after collectors acquired SGC, I personally don't think the SGC is going to be the SGC brand is going to be around in X amount of years. I don't want to say months because that's kind of aggressive. And the reason why I think that and say that is a few things. So, for example, I was on their website recently. This has nothing to do with Where's Peter, but I was looking up something in their pop report. I mean, the thing hasn't changed in a very long time, and we all know that data right now is really, really important. And the registry, as far as individuals, meaning customers and consumers using that, I don't believe that's ever been established. And so whoever just mentioned the idea of having Florida be a hub, that seems very realistic to me, because you're going to have, kind of this triangle created where people can, bring their cards in and get them assessed. And so, all in all, I believe that one of the most powerful things that SGC brings is that consistent grading. And I don't think that goes away if they're folded into PSA, because PSA right now, it seems like, is announcing delays. And even though a lot of it might be modern, I can tell you I submit a lot of vintage cards. It's definitely not as fast as it was a year ago. And so maybe that's what's happening right now, is they're figuring out how exactly they're going to balance everything. And then they're going to come out maybe publicly at some point in the next, we'll call a couple months to a couple years. We don't really know.
Joe, what do you think of all this talk? I know you've caught some of it on other YouTube channels along the way. What do you think's going on, if anything? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I had a 4-card crossover submission that took almost 3 times as long. It should be arriving home soon. The customer service got back to me when I asked them about it. So that I'd heard some people saying customer service was slower. They got back to me the very next day about where my order was in the process. I think, it maybe the speculation, and I'm just gleaning this from some of the comments. Greg did a sort of 3 or 4 part series on this. So there's a lot of twists and turns, but I guess, would it make sense if SGC's processing times and value proposition were so good that collectors felt like they needed to artificially slow them down? That's the sort of a hypothesis that some have posed. I don't know if that's the case, because it also coincided with 2 $12 specials for 70s and 80s cards, as well as all modern football, which could have, precipitated a deluge of submissions, especially at a time when PSA is a little backed up. So I think the proof is in the pudding. Greg's mentioned a few different times, just waiting to see the gym rate data to see how much grading is actually happening. And from there, we may be able to discern if there's a sort of artificial slowdown to kind of maybe even out the mothership PSA and this sort of lower level brand, I guess you could say, or maybe not quite as well known. But I would say personally, I mean, I'm a huge SGC fan. I have some of my favorite cards and most expensive cards in SGC holders. And I think probably I'm not alone in the vintage world of saying I really hope SGC does not go away. I think they offer a nice alternative to the PSA slab, and there's obvious differences with insurance policies and price points and all that. But I hope that they are, if Peter disappeared or is transitioning into other roles, I hope the SGC brand is retained.
Okay. You got me? Okay.
Yep. You're a little choppy.
Sorry.
I know I'm looking, see a little unchoppy and just, am I good? Not good.
Oh, that's on your end, maybe.
Yeah.
Usually I'm the one with the Wi-Fi delay. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, and maybe those rates have returned. And I did see Peter recently. I think the same video that T-Pott was referencing, just as the explanation of a little bit of a slowdown having happened, but not a whole lot, and he was quite active in a voice and his presence in the hobby. So there could be something happening with that particular personnel issue.
Okay, well, great comments, guys. Lesko has joined us. He's in the back. We're going to bring him on in just a couple of minutes once Leighton leaves. But I want to do some comments first, if I may. So I'm going to start. Okay, first of all, Chris C says, only in this hobby do people seem to think monopolies are good, especially in grading. SGC needs to remain because vintage grades are more consistent with them than PSA. Dan says, collectors must know, this is Collectors, the parent company, must know that if they discontinue the SGC brand, it's going to create bad PR and backlash. If they consider CGC a viable competitor, then they may be driving customers right to a competitor. He goes on to say, keeping SGC as a boutique brand for vintage collectors is their best move, in my opinion. Midlife Greg says, SGC graded fewer cards in April than in March, same number of business days. And Dan goes on to say SGC is slowing down because of all these weird pre-war cards I keep sending them that they have to research, which maybe it's Dan's fault. That's pretty funny, actually, Dan. So here's kind of something that I think, and that is that I think SGC is gone. I'm in the camp that everything that you said, Leighton, and you, Joe, and Ty, and Dan in the chat, and anyone else who loves SGC, I don't think they care. I don't think they care that you love SGC. I think that they know that the hobby has shown that PSA is God. PSA is the hobby god. And if you don't have SGC, you are going to go to PSA because PSA doesn't think you have an option. I don't think CGC is a legitimate threat to PSA if SGC is gone. I don't think so. And I also think that they're going to absorb the graders. So you're going to see maybe some more consistency or better grading out of the graders that would come over from SGC. But I don't think they're concerned about the loyal SGC customers not grading anymore. I think we the hobby have shown collectors and their senior leadership, because they're doing 1.5 million cards a month now. I think we've shown them that PSA can carry the weight. Now that doesn't help competition, but I don't think they care about competition. They care about the bottom line. And also, I'm of the belief that they are getting ready or preparing themselves to go public eventually. And when you do that, you need to stage yourself. Like when you stage a house before you sell it, you're going to stage your company to go public. This is part of the staging process, I believe, that they're going through. Acquiring SGC, a legitimate competitor with better grading than, as you know, according to a lot of people. I think buying them and getting rid of them and absorbing the graders is the move that they're doing. And I think that SGC will be gone. I think it could be really quick. This could be really fast, guys. Like this could be this month. I'm not saying it's going to be, but I mean, whether it's 18 months or 3 months or 3 years, I think it's going to be this calendar year, and it could be sooner. It could be very soon. Any quick reactions to that? I mean, quick, because I want to get on with things. But Ty, you've been shaking your head. What are you thinking?
I mean, you might be right, Jeremy. There's a lot of smarter people than I, like, probably giving this a lot of weight and consideration. I kind of tended to agree with Dan, which is that I feel like it's smart to give people a funnel to another company who hate PSA when it's owned by the same parent company. Like that's kind of been my thought. And that way they don't go to CGC or Beckett. They just, or Tag or anywhere else. They just go to SGC. Okay. If you eliminate SGC, now they're going to go somewhere else, maybe. But you might be right.
Well, here really quick, Card Safari says it's Peter's baby. He understandably probably had some strong opinions on the vision and future for the company, and they may not have meshed with PSA after the takeover. Pure speculation, but fair. Foul ball, SGC will be no longer in 6 months. PSA doesn't need them. I kind of feel that way. Stuke says if they go public, the bottom line is more important than customer satisfaction. It is, as is, burn rate and head count and all these things. Abel in Vegas, Peter leaves SGC and maybe he tries to save BGS. Vintage Card Collector says the enormous presence of PSA at the National compared to SGC is striking. This isn't a Lexus Toyota comparison. Right. Definitely agree with that. And Andrew Palmer, if they're absorbed, could we see a PSA vintage slab with the tux option? Maybe. Okay. Michael Thomas, no matter what happens, PSA prices will not be lower. No, I don't think so either. So, okay. Leighton, any final thoughts from you before we swap out and bring Mr. Paul Lesko onto the show?
Just wanted to give a shout out to Orlando from A Collector's Dream. Hope he heals up real quick. Looking forward to seeing you at the National. And it was really fun to partake in this chat with you guys. See you real soon.
Thank you, Leighton. Take care, buddy. We'll see you again soon. All right. So what we're going to do now, guys, we're going to bring Paul Lesko on the show. And I want to start with Paul, Ty, on the topic that was really why I reached out to you, which was memorabilia that isn't game used in cards and our thoughts on that. You and I have some similar thoughts on that. Mr. Paul Lesko, you ready to join us? Yes, he is. All right. Please welcome Paul Lesko back to Sports Cards Live. Say hi to Joe. Say hi to Ty. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back on.
It is.
Hey, Paul.
It is our pleasure, Paul. Good to have you. Good to have you back. And I was hoping to get into this topic with T-Pott before you came on and have you join. But since we got into some other topics, we're going to get into that one now. And there is a specific question I have for you on with it, Paul. But we're going to start with T-Pott just to set the context here and get everybody up to speed. So I watched a video that T-Pott did 3 weeks ago, maybe now, Ty?
Yeah, 3-4 weeks ago.
3-4 weeks ago, basically, talking about the relics that are put into cards that have no connection to the player itself or no connection to the game itself. Maybe they put it on in a foot, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. To me, that's worthless to me. I have no interest. It's just a design element. There's no added value. I like game. If I buy a card that has memorabilia in it, I want that memorabilia to be game worn. Not say it has to be, because I don't mind a manufactured patch when it is not masquerading as or pretending to be something that is real. When game used jerseys first came out in 1996 Upper Deck, they were game used. And that is what people loved about it. They didn't just buy a shirt off the rack at the department store and put it in the card. They got game used jerseys and put them into cards, and we ate that up. We loved it because it was game used, puts you closer to the game. Now they figured, hey, we'll just buy a cheap shirt and put the relics in there. So Ty, with that, can you just give us your high level thoughts on a sort of summary on the video you did and get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was watching the live that you and Adam were doing on the Fanatics Collect auction, and that was the one that was one of the best lineups ever, just overall, a lot of incredible cards. And obviously the Skeens was the one that got all the headlines, but the one to me that stole the show in terms of just, I couldn't wrap my head around it, was this Victor Wembanyama National Treasures logo man PSA 9 that sold for $528,000, which is not from any specific player, game, or event. It's literally from nothing. It's not even from Wemby at all. And to me, this is a card, I think masquerading is the best word, Jeremy. And it's something that's riding the coattails of a brand that's had a lot of staying power over the years. And once upon a time was much better than it has recently become, going from like rookie photo shoot type jerseys to nothing. And so I, like you, would say, if there's something that's a design element in a card that just enhances the overall visual appeal of the card and is interesting, maybe I want that for my collection, but I'm not going to treat it like a relic hit in a product and say it. I don't even like player worn. I just go for game worn. That's it. And then so when in the video, I did this whole matrix. And if anybody wants it, just message me on Instagram, but I did an entire matrix from S tier down to F tier of the types of relics that you can get in different patches, talking about Logo Man, talking about the number of colors, distinguishing a patch from a jersey piece, all the different stuff. And this I had rated in the D- to F tier. I just said, I don't understand why this card is even worth $5, let alone like 5 million or 500,000. So lots more that I could rant on, but that was the general gist of it.
Yeah, and I was listening. I was just nodding along with you the whole time. And the one thing I'll say, and I've heard this argument or this position before, is that, well, it's still the one of one logo man. Whether or not he wore it, it's the one of one logo man, and that's a special card for a player because there's really no, I guess maybe nothing better or very few better comparable cards. The direction I wanted to go on this with Paul, I wanted to get Paul's thoughts, because when we read the backs of these cards, Paul, back in the day, it would say to you, you know, the piece of memorabilia on the front of this card was worn by Michael Jordan when he played for the Chicago Bulls in an official NBA game. That was pretty good. It says the player was worn by, the league the game was in, and that the game was official, sort of thing. It gives you all the information that you want to know. Now it's gone to be so poor as like T-Pott said, not associated with any player, game, league, country, nothing. This could be it's from
just Temu.
From Temu. Could be anything, right? So my question to you, Paul, as a lawyer is, I know it's sort of a loaded question, maybe obviously, why are the legal departments in these card companies dumbing down this language to the point where it's so vague that it means it basically tells me they don't know what they're putting in the cards? That's what it tells me. We don't know what's on this card, but this one has a logo man, but we don't even know where we got it from. Why are they so vague with this now? Why can't they be more direct? Even like, well, why can't because even game used cards, they don't even tell you. Oftentimes it doesn't say that the relic on this card was worn by the player. It just says the game used memorabilia on this card is certified by whatever company. Well, game used by whom? What kind of game? Were they playing T-ball at recess? What kind of game was it? So, Paul, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's funny. About 15 years ago, I wrote an article about this, because I'm a lawyer. I focus on the language, and I was trying to trace the language, like the history of the language, right? Starting in '96, what the language actually said on the card, identified the actual player. I mean, not necessarily the game, but at least the season, and who wore it, and it was game worn. Getting down to this, not necessarily, you got the language exactly right there, like not necessarily worn by any player, game, whatever it actually was. And I think my comment at that time was, well, what the heck is it then? And the reason legal departments, I wouldn't say allow it, I'd say probably require it, is because of truth in advertising. You can't say that they're not being honest. That, if you see the card and you're looking at the patch on there and you think that the patch was game worn, but the back of the card says, no, not necessarily even worn by this player, not worn during any games that we can identify. Well, they're telling you what it is. And as a lawyer, that's where I always side on is, does the consumer know what they're getting? If the consumer knows what they're getting, then I'm fine with it. As a consumer, though, I'm very disappointed. That's not at all what I want. I actually, when I got back into collecting big time in about 2005, 2006, it is relic cards that brought me back into it. That's what brought me back in, because, I started collecting in '86.
Same.
And back then, it was just, 3.5, 2.5 inch piece of cardboard. So when I finally found that the relics, that brought me back in. And, I must have been there for the heyday, because these were actually relics that were, at least at that time, still kind of identified for game worn. But then it quickly fell down to, not just necessarily game worn, but player worn. And then not necessarily worn in any game. So if you want to know why that language is there, I'm sure the lawyers had something to do with it, but I'm sure the lawyers urged the manufacturers to do that. And if it does interfere with sales, I don't think the manufacturers will care too much about it.
Right. Now, you said that it's consumer awareness. They know what they're getting.
Yeah.
But I'm not pushing back at you, but I'm just going to say, well, I don't think they know what they're getting. They know what they're not getting. They're not getting a memorabilia piece that was associated with any player, game, league, nothing, event. No, we know what you're not getting, and you only know some of what you're not getting. You don't know all of what you're not getting. You're also not getting a piece of memorabilia that was worn by a trucker on his route from New York to California. You're not getting that either in the card. but you're also not getting a piece of memorabilia associated with any player, league, or game. So, you know what all you know is what you're not getting. You don't necessarily know what you're getting. And to me, that seems like a liability thing, because maybe they don't know. They say a lot of these cards say the memorabilia on the front of this card was certified to the card company as having been used in an official league game. Certified to us by whom? I want to know who certified it to you. I want to know, and I want to be able to go to your website and see where you got this from and who certified it to you, because there's a lot of money being put in. Now, does Ty, do you have something to say right now?
I have a couple, just a follow-up and a question for Paul. So my question, and I'll fill this in, and my question is just like, is there a scenario where we could have a class action lawsuit against the manufacturers? And the two things I'll say, one is related to that. Several content creators and others have now ripped pieces of Relic out of cards, only to discover on the back it's a completely different player than what the card says. In some cases, even to where the cards say game used. So hence maybe the issue with this stuff. There are obviously the more obvious ones that don't even require destroying the card, where it's some color of the team that's never been worn by the team. So that's a question. And then just a little anecdote. So Topps, with baseball in particular, does almost exclusively game used on everything. Like when you see relics in cards for Topps, rookie or otherwise, they tend to be game used, which is awesome. They have verbiage on Topps Dynasty, which is one of their high-end, patch auto products. And it says right on the front of the card, game used, right by the relic. But the back had verbiage that was eerily similar to what Panini's reads as, only it didn't say like not worn by the player. It just said not from any specific game or event. Mm-hmm. I was in one of the Topps breakouts for design with their head of design for baseball cards at the Topps conference. And somebody asked the question and was like, what's up with these cards like Dynasty not being game used? And the head of design just shook his head, like they are game used. Like you could feel the pain from his side. And I think it's because Panini has caused such a big problem that Topps has felt the burn secondarily from it. But so that was the anecdote. The question though is like, where could we actually see this materialize into something that is problematic for the manufacturers, and what would that take?
Yeah, and I've looked into those. When you take the patch off, and it says it's like underneath the patch, it says a different player's name for it. I've seen those, and I'm always interested in that. And that is something. Again, it all turns on: does the card say that it is what it is? Does the card on the back say not any specific player, game, or anything like that? And then is that the card that has the wrong player slab or the wrong player patch in it? Well, that's again truth in advertising. Now, if it does say that this is an actual official swatch of this player's uniform, and then it's not, well, in that instance, that's when you're getting into the fun little consumer fraud or breach of contract or other type of law cases that are like that. So again, it's kind of a complicated analysis, but it's like, look at the back of the card. What does the back of the card say? And then if that lines up with what's potentially on the front of the card, there's probably nothing. But if it doesn't line up, then there might actually be something. So, but then it's who's actually going to be interested in it, because most relics right now, especially if they're not game used, nobody is very interested in them, and it would take a rather special card with an incorrect patch in it to generate I guess like you're talking about with the logo man. But if the back of the card says we don't know what this is, but to push back on what you said, Jeremy, where it says what we're saying what the card isn't. Actually, if you look at the language, it doesn't rule out that it was actually a game-worn uniform of that player. It just says it might be anything else other than that too. So you might be lucky. You might actually have something with that disclaimer, and it actually is game-worn. But you're right. It would be nice if the manufacturers had that next level of, and with the technology we have right now, why don't you have it? Like, if this is the uniform you bought, take a picture of it. Take a picture of the process of cutting it up. Throw those swatches into the cards and just make that available on your website. I mean, I think for high-end products, that would be great. Maybe not for, flagship or anything else like that where you have lots of swatches, but the technology exists. You can do it, but I don't think there's really that much of it. I mean, I think patches right now, when it comes to consumers, have really died down in desirability. I mean, it's gotten to the point now, if I open packs and I see patches, I'm almost tossing them away. I don't care anymore.
Well, even if, back to what you said half a minute ago, even if you're lucky enough to have a card where the back says, we don't know what this is, but it is game used, you'll never know anyway. So there's no value. The value is diminished even. So if they're wasting their actual gamers in cards and putting that disclaimer on the back, it's a big waste, I would say, of that, budget for the product there. I just looked at the back of 3 cards that I have, and they all say just used in an official NHL game. And it doesn't say by what player. I noticed Iowa Dave made a similar comment. He says, I don't even like game worn because it doesn't say who it's worn by. These days, I need it to explicitly say who wore it, like Upper Deck did years ago. And that's where me as a collector, and I do love patch cards. I've not picked up some. I still pick them up. I love patch cards. But I now, as a collector, have to make the decision. Do I just rule out anything that doesn't give me the information I want? Or do I put some probably misdirected faith into the cards and just kind of take that leap of faith and say, you know what, this is a beautiful Guy Lafleur card, and that's a beautiful piece of memorabilia. It just says it was used in an NHL game, but it could have been used by any player that wore that jersey. It doesn't have to be this player. And like T-Pott said earlier, we've seen cases of that more recently now, and that's very discouraging for patch collectors to the point where Iowa Dave doesn't even bother with them anymore. So now, here's what I want. Joe, do you have any thoughts, even, again, taking this all in? I have a screen share I'm going to share with you guys just to show the extent of this. But, Joe, what are you thinking?
Oh, just real quick. I mean, it's been kind of a disappointing role of getting to this place, and has caused me to completely, recalibrate my own relationship to collecting mem cards, which I did like. I do still like aesthetically. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I remember back in the clubhouse days with Carvin Chung, he ironically, some of the best mem cards ever in existence. He's the architect of the exquisite brand. But in more recent conversations, I feel like he was basically saying, yeah, people don't care. People don't care. And I found that very troubling. And I said, I care, Carvin, I care. And I think plenty of collectors do. But maybe what this amounts to is yet another moment in the hobby where, unless people really do vote with their wallets, we can be discerning in the secondary market and check things over and, select what we're willing to put up with in terms of this vagueness of the language. But where the rubber really meets the road is people breaking wax. And as long as those cases still get sold, do they have an impetus to really change or modify the language, whatever the language means?
Yeah, or just putting in these imposters, right? And, I've heard Carvin say that before. And, Carvin's, I love Carvin. He's a good friend of mine for 20 years now. But I disagree with him. I think because I care, and Iowa Dave cares, and T-Pott cares, and Lesko cares, right? Like the 4 of the 5 people, Joe, I don't know if you probably care too. Like
I care.
We care. Like we do care. I think collectors do care, but I think that people get all, caught up in the rush of a 4-color patch that is just may as well just put some sort of color swatch on there that doesn't, it's a design element at that point for me. So I have a sort of a rule for I don't want any of this. We don't know what it is in my collection. I want cards that say game used. Now I stop before Iowa Dave does, and I'm willing to take that leap of faith. Even if it doesn't say the player, I'm going to just kind of take that, again, it's a blind leap of faith, and hope that it is, and that it's just that this certification on the back of the card is just there to protect them legally on the, official NHL game or NBA or whatever. Now check this out, you guys. I want to show you this. Now I'm going to bring up a card ladder report that I just ran. Here it is. And what I did is I went to the sales history. So these are drawing from all, well, not all, but most auction platforms. I just searched rookie patch auto. and I have it sorted by highest price. And as I scroll down, with 5.2 million for a LeBron out of 23, 4.6 million for Luka Logo Man, 4.3 million for Mahomes Shield. None of these are game worn. And look at that money. None of these are game worn. Maybe Carvin's right. People don't care. All these LeBron RPAs that have sold for 2.4, 2.4, 2.1 million, 2 million, 1.8 million, none of them contain a game used jersey, including the Giannis NT Logo Man here. 1.8 million, not game used. I don't know how far you have to go down, maybe to an Upper Deck the Cup, like Ovechkin, one that just sold for 350,000 that is game used. I can't speak to this Immaculate. I don't know. Does anyone know if Immaculate is game?
Oh,
it's not.
Flawless is. If you find flawless, it is.
Flawless is the one. So look, we're scrolling. We have not seen a single game used patch card yet. And look at these numbers. We're at 780,000. Not a single game used. I don't know about the Exquisite Durant. Does anyone know about the Exquisite Durant? T-Pott's checking. I know the Curry is not. I checked on the Curry NT RPA, not game used. None of this is game used. Still nothing. Still nothing. Still nothing. We're down to 450,000 from 5.2 million, and we've yet to see a game used patch. These are all worn by the player or not associated or photo shoot sort of thing. So I don't know. It's just this is one of the reasons why I love rookie year inserts and parallels that are rare, there's none of this business going on. And that's what I love. And they're cheaper usually than these things by $5.299 million. They can be a lot cheaper. So now that we've gone through that and looked at all these millions of dollars that are being spent on patches, on card. Now, I don't want to say patches because another argument is that it's about the card. It's not about the patch. It's the card is important. The National Treasures is important. The Exquisite is important. You go to Exquisite and you look at the Kobe limited logos and you look at the LeBron limited logos and the MJ limited logos, game worn. Game worn. It's the rookies that aren't. And it's because the rookie, the RC designation sells the cards enough that they don't need the game-used memorabilia to sell the card. All right. Paul, let's hear your response to all this, your thoughts.
Well, and again, we're looking at the disclaimers on those. And are we 100% sure that those jerseys weren't actually game worn? I mean, I've seen some litigation that has happened over the LeBron RPA. I don't remember seeing any allegations that wasn't in fact game worn. So I don't know if you guys know that or not. I mean, if we're dealing with just what the disclaimers say, again, blame the legal department for that, because I think, some of those that we're going through there probably might actually be game worn. I think Carvin would be the expert on those LeBron RPAs also. But I would hazard that maybe that actually was, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. And, for me, it's the language is one thing for sure. It's important and it's somewhat informative or sometimes it's not informative. But unless they overtly tell you that that's a game worn patch, why are we spending $350,000 to $5.2 million on these things? Well, it's like Linda's first says, they do contain the revered rookie card designation, though. A lot of them do, and that's what people want. So if memorabilia cards were never even invented in the first place, would we still be seeing these huge numbers for the LeBron RPA? There's no RPA in that world. There's just RA or R, or RC. There's no P in there. So I don't know. Does the patch sell the card? How much of the 5.2 million down to 350,000, how much of that is based on the value that the relic brings and how much is based on the rest of the card unit, the widget itself is deriving that value? And I don't know. T-Pott, thoughts?
I just like products like NT and some of these I've always had a hard time wrapping my head around. Is just the bottom line. I would rather have I'd rather have a game used chunky patch auto from an off year, a non-rookie year, than I would the rookie card with the fake patch in it. especially in the case of the Wemby that went for 528 that didn't have an auto. It was just not an auto and not anything. Whereas at least the LeBrons are out of, I think Exquisite stands in a tier of its own for a lot of different reasons than even something like National Treasures. So you understand the premium on the LeBron RPA. But this other card, I don't know if you're able to open it, Jeremy, and screen share, but I did just pop the link in here of this Wemby. So Mercury obviously got a lot of conversation when it came out. First new product from Topps, unlicensed, exclusive to Victor Wembanyama. Whether or not they should have gone that direction and had an exclusive product remains, that open to debate. I argued maybe they would have been better putting cards like this into a Topps Dynasty release and, going a little bit of a different direction. But this card sold for, I just had the number, 108,000. It is not only game used, but game dated and is signed and is a 1-of-1 with the Jumpman on it. So what would you rather have? An NT non-auto, not from any player, licensed card, 1-of-1, for 528,000, or this card for 128,000? And to me, the answer, or 108,000, the answer is really clear. So, and even if this one doesn't strike your fancy, there's a whole myriad of others. Now people can start to say, well, 1-of-1, but there's 10 other 1-of-1s. Sure, that's true. But I still think this card is more desirable personally and has very strong eye appeal compared to the other Logo Man.
I agree completely. And I had that up before you even knew I had that up. But that's how quick we work here on behind the scenes of Sports Cards Live as we're producing the show on the fly here. I agree with you. I think that Wemby, that Jumpman is way cooler because it's game dated even. I think that's awesome. Andrew Anderson made the comment earlier here. Won't the debut patches save us from this? Well, first of all, Andrew Anderson, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. I don't think you're going to save us from this because it's one card per player per year, or no, it's one card per player per career, not even per year. So that doesn't save us from that. That's something that is completely separate and is additive to the landscape of cards that are offered. I don't think it saves us from us unless Fanatics, who's been able to do that, which is one of the greatest innovations of all time, unless they are able to bring that to, I want to say all relic cards, but I think that's pushing it, but to maybe some special sets. In hockey, we have Upper Deck puts out a set called SP Game Used, and the guys on the Hockey Cards Gong Show love to laugh at it because there's almost nothing game used out of that product anymore. There are some Supreme patches are game used, but there's a lot of non-game used stuff. So, it would be nice to have a product that is game used. And then the proof will be in the pudding there. What does that sell for? What do those singles sell for on the secondary market compared to the more ambiguously described cards that are on the market that may not be game used and likely are not? So that'll be really, really interesting to see what happens. As a collector, I want my card, my memorabilia to have been in the game. Jersey, stick, whatever it is, puck, football, anything, basketball shoes. I want that to be game use. So those are my thoughts. Let's get Joe's input here on all that he's heard, and then we'll go back around the horn.
Yeah, it's a complicated gestalt for a collector to kind of piece through all this. And I really appreciated the video that Tyler put together. That was helpful for me. I know Kyle at Wax Museum podcast did a similar one where he just went through, I think, 15 or so, phrases on the back of the card and just was kind of comparing them and, teasing out somewhat sarcastically, what could this mean? Getting back to your question, Jay Lee, I think ultimately for me, it's going to be a combination. I'm not going to say I don't ever want, a Dick's Sporting Good. I'll probably accept. I have a few that I have picked up along the way, sometimes not really even realizing it at the time in the heat of an auction. I think I have a pretty nice SGA that's not officially anything, but it's a gold select with a big old swatch, and I like it. I like it reasonably well. So I think it comes down to a combination of the aesthetics, the way in which the language reads and the level of confidence that you're gaining from that. And I share T-Pott's sensibilities. I'd much rather have a third or fourth year of a truly known game used or player worn piece. But I've also just kind of found myself more interested in autos because of all this. That's just the pivot I've made. And even before that, I think I just preferred auto mem in and of itself, because to me, it's like, okay, you got the difference between a sticker and an on card. But after that, in quality of the autograph, but most of us can kind of discern that this whole area, it's just a complicated morass of language that maybe someday there will be a decoder ring or a manual that we will all be able to look back at. But I don't even think the manufacturers know at this point. I don't think you could even, and I am of the belief, and Paul probably can speak to this as well, that the language, the umbrella of the language, is created generally in the loosest possible way to avoid any legal ramifications. And so in many instances, you are probably holding a card that is game worn by the player you hope it is, but you could never quite know that for sure, because the language needed to accommodate a wide variety of circumstances and players and access points for jerseys. And here we are, so everyone gets to choose.
Do me a favor, Joe. Let's get Paul and Ty's thoughts on this. Guys, give me about 3 to 5 minutes. I'll be right back. I got to go. I'm getting a message here. I'll be back. Handle the show for me for a few minutes, and I'll be right back, guys.
You got it. Nature calls. Yeah. So you want to flip to Paul and then back to T-Pott?
Sure. I think one thing too, and this is, slightly getting a little off topic, but, still there, is that actually because of the fact that we don't know what's there, it's actually pushed me to wanting to buy more game worn jerseys, period. I mean, don't support the industry that's cutting them up, especially when some of these cards are going for more than an actual game worn jersey is. And I'm sure you guys have been inundated with the Sotheby's auctions about new NBA rookie, like I am. You get these advertisements all the time for their game worn jerseys, and I'm actually checking them out because they are shockingly affordable compared to some of these other cards there. So I think, you hit the nail on the head. The reason the disclaimer is as broad as it is to apply in a lot of situations. You have 700 cards and this release here. Do you want a separate disclaimer on every card, or is it easier to have a one size fits all disclaimer? So that's what you have there. And so you might be actually getting the patch, you might not. It doesn't matter, but I mean, maybe let the consumer figure out what's going on here. Maybe the consumer should actually compete with the trading card companies, start buying your own game worn jerseys, and maybe that'll change. That'll change everything for us.
Right on, T-Pott.
I mean, that is the much bigger conversation around the jerseys themselves and being chopped up. There is something almost like sacrilegious about it when you really think about it. Like, oh wow, they cut this entire thing into pieces. It's why I do actually like not just the MLB debut patches, but the they've done like the award winner patches that are gold now on the back of the Cy Young and MVP award winners and the World Series, and those are pretty non-destructive when they take them off of the jersey to the rest of the jersey to like be able to put some really cool, meaningful things into cards. I think the more they can look to do that, at least to some extent, is a good thing. It's going to be really interesting now with basketball and football coming over fully licensed to see how well can Topps execute on continuing this pattern of mostly game worn, rookie or otherwise, for those sports. Obviously, with something like the NFL, you're talking about 17 games a season, not 162 games a season for the overall amount of material. And a lot of these players want to keep them. So does that mean that we'll be seeing Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen doing like a jersey change on the sidelines if, Ruben's got his connections into the NFL to say, we need these relics? I don't know. I don't know what all that's going to look like. But I'm a card guy, I've like intentionally I've intentionally put my head in the sand when it comes to other memorabilia, because that's the last thing I need is to get interested in yet another thing. I've gotten into like Star Wars Unlimited now, playing with my kids, and that's another distraction. It's a card game, but like I collect everything, and so I mostly stay out of the memorabilia space. But it feels like I'm starting to get the bug for some of that too. So pray for me.
Thanks for holding it down, Joe and fellas. I want to do some comments, if I may here. First of all, Dan's Vintage says that trucker memorabilia could be the next big market in the hobby. Yankees fan says, for this kind of money, we shouldn't be guessing what it is you're getting. Simon says, I think this is what happens when investors vastly outnumber collectors. I don't think that's the case. I'm not going to believe that investors vastly outnumber collectors. I think collectors vastly outnumber investors, but they're just not, it's not what we see so much. So I'm not really sure what else to make of this comment from Simon. I mean, you go to a card show like the Expo, you're seeing a lot of people running around buying cards to flip to make money. If we're calling them investors, fine. But I think that the collector still outnumbers the investor. Maybe I'm just in my own world on that. Well, Ty, you're nodding. I guess
they definitely do.
They definitely do. I seem to think that way as well. But maybe the collectors aren't as important to the bottom line of the card companies as the investors are. Maybe they're the investors, the flippers. Maybe they're the ones driving the business and keeping them in business so they can offer. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'll just leave that at that for now. But thanks for the comment.
Show.
What's that?
That's a whole nother show.
It's a whole other show.
It is.
Thanks. We'll get Simon back on for that another time. Kyle says, love the convo and agree relics are garbage now. I have started trying to piece together 2020 Topps rookie card medallions because I love the thick stock reprint aspect. The new relic, I guess. Hey, you found something you like. That is what is important there. And Bob Boozle says, if only the attorneys had Joe's vocabulary. Yes, of course. And Trevor Coulter in the house. What's up, Trevor? Sports Card Spot on Instagram. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. Okay. And then Dan here says, chopping up a Josh Gibson game used bat was a disgrace. Now, it reminds me of when many of you have heard of George Vezina. He's, what the hockey goalie award is named after. And back in like the year 2000, I believe, Brian Price, who owned In the Game at the time, had a pair of George Vezina pads and chopped them up and put them into cards. And there was an uproar about it. These should be in the Hall of Fame for people to look at and enjoy. But, or his argument was, well, or they can be chopped up and hundreds of people can enjoy them. Personally, I don't really care too much myself. I have a piece of those myself. Well, I'm one of the hundreds of people that have a little bit of that pad. But it's I do agree with Dan. Like, while it's not, I'm not gonna go to bat for this. Really, I don't care that much, but I do understand the disgrace or just destroy. Like, those can't be replaced. Those are true one of a kind things, and having them to be enjoyed in museums for a long time, I think, is important. But when players are putting on a different jersey each period or quarter or half or whatever it is, there's no shortage of these things now, right? Back then, they'd get one jersey for the whole season or one set of pads for their career type of thing. So they were much more much rarer, of course. And chopping them up is. I'm getting more over to Dan's side now. Not that I was in the middle, but I'm moving more towards Dan's side. I'm like, yeah, that is kind of a disgrace, but it also sells product, and that's what drives a lot of this stuff, right? So, Paul, thoughts?
I'm with the poster there, because I am, every time I see an older piece that is cut up, it does make me feel a little sick. I mean, when I watch a shoot 'em up movie and it takes place in like some temple somewhere and they're destroying relics, that makes me mad and nervous. So just to see any like museum piece that's cut up and put in cards, and I don't care about modern uniforms. I mean, again, I think everyone's wearing a new uniform every game. Cut them up, who cares? But when it comes to the stuff that's irreplaceable, I really wish that would not show up in cards.
How about you, Ty?
I like seeing the cards. I try to ignore the rest.
Yeah. Fair. And listen, I see cards all the time. We go to the big card shows and we're looking at these things all the time. I've been to Toronto for the Sport Card Expo, twice a year now for 25 years. Call it 45 times I've gone. I think once I went to the Hall of Fame among those 45 trips to look at this memorabilia. And all I'm doing while I'm at the Hall of Fame is looking forward to getting to the card show anyway. So, that's just me. Ty, you want to jump in? I thought you were going to jump in. How about you, Joe? Anything else there?
Oh, no, I think just there's always opportunities in moments in the collecting world when it looks like something is closing, and the opportunities, I mean, you find the more clearly articulated language. I don't have enough space for jerseys in my life. I barely have enough space for the cards I have. So that becomes an issue. Obviously a historical piece like a, Satchel Paige or Josh Gibson or whatever, that is a little sacrilegious. One little quick thing I'll mention though, I'm a Steph Curry collector, and there's this pejorative notion, of napkin cards, but I've really been enjoying, second and third year National Treasure Steph Curry napkin cards. They're not even that, but there's something about knowing, because I do trust that those are legit, they're getting something from Steph Curry, second, third year where he actually played. And even if it's just straight blue or white, sometimes yellow, I kind of like that as a collector, and the values seems pretty good on that. So that's one little flip I've been doing in the context of all these other things, like, who knows, Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah. So you like that it's game used, and even though it's not as pretty as a non-game used piece might be for the same price.
It's almost, yeah. I mean, it's almost more compelling, because if were they to actually, kind of gull you into thinking this was something, they'd probably try to make it look nicer. And there's a simplicity to those old NT, 2010, 2011s that, I don't know, I just find compelling in the price point. I mean, some of them compared to today's, stars, Ant Edwards or Luca, it just seems like good value. So anyway.
Well, so, okay. I want to go to a couple comments here quick. First of all, Foul Ball says, Jeremy, do you still have your game used gloves or something like that? And yes, I do. So I've often said that, well, let me rephrase. People often say, why would you pay so much for a piece of jersey this big when you can buy the whole jersey for that much? And my response is, I don't collect jerseys. I got nowhere to put them. I'm going to literally fold them up, put them in a box in my storage. Like, I'm never going to enjoy. I enjoy my cards. I look at my cards. I don't collect jerseys. I don't collect memorabilia, asterisks. Okay. And I like that Foul Ball asked me that question, because I have two memorabilia pieces in my collection. One is a pair of Teemu Selanne game used gloves from when he was with the Winnipeg Jets, my all-time favorite professional athlete. And I have a game used jersey. I do have one game used jersey in my collection of Teppo Newman, played for the Winnipeg Jets, the last guy to skate off the ice in there when they in the 1.0 version. And that's all I have. Okay. But I've recently taken a liking. Now, I don't ever plan to collect jerseys because I don't have enough wall space, to be honest. But gloves, I'm a hockey collector mostly. I love my vintage baseball guys, but I love collecting hockey. Game used gloves, I have a really nice display case up there with them in it, and they look great. I could see myself having some game used gloves, and I've started watching them on some auctions when they come up. So while I say I don't collect memorabilia, I reserve the right to start collecting memorabilia. And if I do, I think it's going to be game used gloves. That's the direction that I would go. And then Dan's Vintage says, I have no problem chopping up a Mahomes jersey. They're not rare. Yeah, exactly what I was saying too, Dan. They're not rare, right? The stuff today, when they're putting on so many per game to feed the machine, the card industry machine, they're cool, but they're not rare anymore. I think is the point there. So, okay. T-Pott. We're gonna swap out guests again. I want to thank you for coming on, Paul. I mean, first of all, Paul, you're not going anywhere yet, but we haven't even gone to the legal review yet that we got to do. We got Chris McGill in the background. He's about to come on. So, T-Pott, it's been great having you back. You're very insightful. Always good having you on the show. We'll get you back again. In due course, and I hope you're willing to come back. So thank you for coming on and sharing your experience at the conference, and of course talking about non-game used memorabilia with me. I love the topic.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Not me, the other people on screen, and the chat, of course.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of educational 101 content on the Market Movers channel for YouTube. So if you know people who are new to the hobby or anybody's watching is new, check that out. It's been a sort of a refocus of the channel to just share a lot of 101 type stuff. Had the pleasure of writing the Dummies book with Jeff and Ben Burrows, and collaborating with and getting some feedback on hockey stuff from Jeremy and others. And so that was a lot of fun. Also doing some fun experiments over there, including a grading video that I'm hoping will release sometime in June that I know you are going to love, Jeremy. So something I don't think I've ever seen anybody do, at least not publicly. And I think it's going to be jaw-dropping, to say the least. So stay tuned for that. And the last thing I'll say,
I'm intrigued, and you might be hearing from me on the side to get a little preview. But yeah,
okay, I may be willing to give a little preview privately. But the last thing I'll say, just to give Panini some flowers, though I saw no marketing of this whatsoever. 2024-25 Origins basketball released, and it's a 1-pack product. And I was looking at the checklist and noticed there are 20 one-of-one game-used, game-dated Logo Man cards in this product, including a one-of-one LeBron James from his Cleveland Cavaliers days. So kind of interesting. So far, I've seen the Pascal Siakam and Lauri Markkanen hit eBay, and just like really valuable cards should be just sort of like flying under the radar mostly. So put that into NT. I don't know. But anyway. So
well, thanks for having me.
Good to be here.
You bet, T-Pott. Thanks for coming on. We'll be in touch. Talk soon.
Congrats on the new kiddo.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
All right. Really quick here. Foul Ball says second-year relics should have game-used rookie materials. I think a lot of them do, Foul Ball, and that's why I've been known to say, give me a second-year memorabilia card over an RPA any day. That's something that I like. And Simon wants to know how smelly are a pair of game-used gloves from the 90s. I haven't tried, Simon. I'm not putting my nose in there. I'll just put it to you that way. I don't need to know the answer to that, so I can't do it. Christina's PC says it's time for the Hobbies Compologist, and it is time for the Hobbies Compologist. Now, but Chris, I see there we still got a legal review, which is great because you've got a law degree. So, okay, let's bring Chris on, Paul, and then we're gonna. So here he is, Chris from Card Ladder. Welcome back. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Great to be here.
And before we get into things, I was listening to the crossover today from last night, the show that you and Josh and Christina have been doing on Instagram for years now. Last night, I knew it was coming, but I didn't realize so quick was your last time on Instagram. You were moving full time to YouTube on Friday nights. Congratulations on the move. It's like buying a new house. Congratulations on the move. I think it's going to be really good for your show. And I'm excited. For me, the biggest reason I'm happy is because when I watch the crossover on Instagram and I want to go to another app, I got to leave. And then I come back and it's like, oh, J. Lee Sports Cards Live has joined the show. Like you can see me come. I'm guessing you see me coming and going. On YouTube, if you have YouTube Premium or whatever it's called, the app does not close when you go to another app. It stays open and you can listen or watch while you're doing other things on your device. But that's only if you pay for YouTube. I think it's YouTube Premium it's called, which I've been doing for years, and it's absolutely worth every penny. You also don't get any ads. So I'm excited because I'm going to get to watch more of the crossover when it's happening because it's not on Instagram. So congratulations. How are you feeling about that? Are you excited?
Yeah, I feel great. I mean, people have a lot of complaints about the crossover. One of them being that the video and the audio quality are atrocious. So that's been going on for about 5 years. And I think moving to YouTube is definitely going to bump up the video. I think we're going to get some microphones going. So we might actually enter the 21st century technologically as well.
Right. And do you know Paul?
I follow him very closely on Twitter, one of the best hobby social media accounts.
Oh, thanks for that.
And Paul, well, please meet Chris. Chris, please meet Paul. I know you both know Joe already. So Chris, we're a little bit behind on the programming. We have the guests coming in and out, as you know, from the schedule I sent you, but we're behind. We still haven't gotten the legal update from Paul, which I'd like you to get. Paul, and guys, Paul sent me a list of lawsuits that was like literally, Paul, first of all, thank you for taking the time to type that up in a DM, because I don't know how long that would have taken you. There's a lot there. So I think if Joe, myself, and Chris are willing to just sit back, can you inform us on those cases and the ones that I'm going to leave at your discretion that we'll find most interesting? You want to just take us through kind of high summary. We don't need to get into the detail, but like a high level summary, your thoughts on the ones that you think we'd be most interested in.
And we don't have to go through all of them. I tried to overload you on those and let you drive where we think things could go from there. But there are some interesting ones that I do want to go to. And my favorite lawsuit that's going on right now is the Ultra Pro versus BCW cases. And I'm saying cases because there's about 3 of them that are out there, where Ultra Pro brought a lawsuit initially against BCW for trademark infringement. Sounds boring. But Ultra Pro says in this that they have registrations for the words penny sleeves and top loader. And basically that they own those phrases, that those phrases are theirs and nobody else in the hobby can use those phrases in association with trading card products. And I thought that was kind of a crazy and maybe a hot button topic that the hobby would like to know about, because I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the phrases top loader and penny sleeves, I don't think about Ultra Pro. I think that's a generic term that's been utilized forever. And in order to have a trademark registration, it's supposed to be the first thing you think of is that company. So if you think of Prism, Panini, that's a trademark right there. But penny sleeves and top loader, it's just, it seemed like it was an overreach of a lawsuit. And why another reason these lawsuits are really interesting is because after BCW filed this or Ultra Pro filed this lawsuit, they kind of fell asleep at the wheel. They filed this lawsuit. They inexplicably dismissed it for no reason whatsoever. Then BCW sued Ultra Pro, basically saying, hey, we've got this hanging over our head, judge. Tell them they don't have rights in this. To which Ultra Pro then resued BCW, to which then BCW tried to cancel Ultra Pro's registrations at the trademark office. Again, all sounds boring. But what happened at this point is Ultra Pro stopped showing up to the lawsuits. It didn't ever show up. It didn't until recently show up to the trademark office. And what ended up happening is the trademark office canceled Ultra Pro's trademark registrations for top loader, for penny sleeves, and for 4 or 5 other trademarks that are out there. But now Ultra Pro is back saying, hey, our attorney just didn't get these emails about this lawsuit. Bring our trademarks back to life. Let's go forward with this lawsuit. So I know no swearing's allowed on this, but I've had a number of threads about this, and it boggles my mind. This is the worst litigation I have ever seen. And I love Ultra Pro. I've got a lot of there's some Ultra Pro products behind me. I love them. This is the worst lawyering I have ever seen. And maybe they're telling their lawyer not to do anything, but it's just baffling to me. But at least as of this moment, the reign of terror of Ultra Pro owning the phrases penny sleeves and top loader, they don't. They're dead, but they're trying to bring them back. So part of the reason I wanted to bring that up is just to get the conversation going of, first of all, do you think when you see penny sleeves or top loader that that's an Ultra Pro only product? And should they actually be able to own a trademark registration for those 2 terms?
Yeah, I mean, my vote is no. Christina here says, is this like a Kleenex or Xerox? It's called a tissue, not a Kleenex. Kleenex is the company. So, yeah. And then, I reached into my drawer and I pulled out my fancy bag of card sleeves. These are card sleeves by a company called Penny Sleever. The owner of this company gave these out at a YouTube gathering at the National last year. And so this is the Penny Sleever. Great guys that run this company. But what happens to these guys if Penny Sleeve is no longer allowed? Maybe penny sleever is different. I don't know, but I thought about that. I'm with you. These are general terms. They, to me, or should be, but if they're not, they're not. But it seems like they are, and that's good for everybody because that's what we all call them. So interesting stuff. What else you got?
So I think the litigation that most people out there are watching is the Panini Fanatics antitrust cases that are out there, because I think there's a lot of concerns when Fanatics showed up and ended up getting all the exclusive licenses for the leagues and the player associations, that maybe they're encroaching into illegal monopoly territory. And Panini was the first lawsuit that was filed alleging that Fanatics actions is an illegal monopoly, and that the court should do something about that. So this lawsuit has been going on for almost 2 years now, and we're actually just at the beginning point, because the lawsuit was filed. It was filed in Florida. There was a fight about should it even be in Florida. It got moved to New York. They fought about it in New York. Should the lawsuit even be there? There's a motion to dismiss on file, and the court recently ruled on the motion to dismiss, largely preserving Panini's antitrust claims. Now, that doesn't mean Panini's going to win. It's just basically saying, hey, what Panini has alleged in the complaint, there's enough that if they prove everything, and if Fanatics has no defenses, well, then this case can go forward and should go forward to potentially to the jury. So we're finally actually getting a little bit of traction. And so now the big question everybody has is, well, when is the court going to rule? When's the jury going to rule? When are we going to know if there is a antitrust here? Well, antitrust actions don't proceed very quickly, and both sides proposed dates, and the judge adopted a date, and it looks like we potentially won't get a final ruling in this case until potentially 2027. So this is a bit of litigation that's going to outlast the exchange of licenses here. And I'm a plaintiff's attorney at heart. I started my life as a defense attorney. I prefer being a plaintiff's attorney. I don't like defense attorney, I'm going to call them tricks, or the defense attorney game book. There's a special, like, basically a playbook that they you do the same things in every case. And one thing as a defense attorney you do is you try not to produce any documents to the other side for as long as possible. So this case has almost been pending for 2 years, and just in, I think, next week or in like a week and a half, finally Fanatics will produce the 6 license agreements that are at issue. In this case, the Panini. That's the NFL, NFLPA, NBA, NBPA, MLB, and the MLBPA exclusive licenses. Those still haven't been exchanged. Panini still hasn't been able to look at those, and they'll finally be produced in the next couple of weeks. So kind of a hat tip to the Fanatics attorneys for dragging it out that long. But as a plaintiff's attorney, that makes me so mad. It seems like that should have been produced a lot longer ago.
And it's frustrating for the peanut gallery too, who's sitting here wondering what's going on, to the extent that you or we care about it. And I heard that at the Topps conference, they made clear, and I think I heard this last night on the crossover. I think you guys on the crossover mentioned the dates that the licenses do move. I forget exactly what they are for football and basketball. So they're still moving. Fanatics is moving forward with everything that they're doing. But like you said, it might outlast the transfer of the licenses. Bob Boozle says justice takes too long, right? It kind of does, but we're, hey, there's things need to be done, I'm sure. But I feel the way Bob Boozle does on that. I want to say hello to Yelio Williams for joining us. And then Foul Ball said here, I think of Ultra Pro only when I think of penny sleeves and top loaders. That's backwards, and I'm the same way. I'm the same way there. I think of them and other companies when I think of top loaders and penny sleeves. So, okay. Well, thanks for that. And I see Chris is taking notes. Joe, you're taking mental notes. Let's let Paul run through these, and then let's do questions and comments all at the end, so we can get everything out on the table. Paul, what's the next one you want to update us on?
So another fun one that was out there was, and it's a case that resolved itself this week. It was the Topps versus Dodd case. If you may remember, a few months ago on eBay, on a eBay seller store, DFW Card Sharks, 24 one-of-one superfractors from the same product, 2023 Bowman draft, popped up. Same seller had them all. Seems, the odds don't support that. So there was a lot of speculation about that, and it eventually led to a Topps lawsuit, where Topps alleged in the lawsuit, hey, those were actually misprints. Those are cards that were meant for destruction. They were not meant to be sold. And this person, operating DFW Card Sharks, who they allege is this Dodd individual, unlawfully obtained these cards. So we're bringing a lawsuit. We want these cards, removed from the population. We want that, the store to stop selling these. And it was a really interesting lawsuit because everyone's trying to figure out, well, how did he get the cards? Because the lawsuit didn't, you don't have to say everything when you file the lawsuit. You just say what's the wrong, and judge, help us out. So there was a lot of speculation about what was going on. So Dodd ended up filing a response, and what he alleges, and again, this is what he alleges, is that he used to work for the a company called Pioneer Paper, that was the disposal company for the printer for Topps. And that he alleges that there was no contract to actually say we need to destroy these. So he says, basically, the way that he alleges, like basically everybody in his company, whenever trash goes in, they all go looking through it to see what's good there, and then they take it home. Grain of salt. I take a grain of salt with that. But I thought it was fascinating that was his defense. Because, you're basically thinking that these multi-billion-dollar companies have a contract with a trash disposal company to say, yeah, do whatever you want with them afterwards. But that case has resolved. This week, there was a settlement. Of course, it's a confidential settlement. But what indicates that I think Topps ended up winning is there's an injunction that was with the case, saying that Dodd cannot sell or trade any Topps cards, basically for the rest of his life.
Oh.
So I'm like, so he has basically been removed from the hobby.
Welcome to hockey, Dodd. Welcome to hockey.
Yeah, Upper Deck's now your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting one too, and it brings whether it happened or not, the concept of dumpster diving. Lots of states allow dumpster diving. If some company throws something away and they don't destroy it, it's free there. And it got people questioning too, why on site at Topps isn't there a shredder? Because even, at my office, we do have a company that takes away all of our confidential stuff. But before they even get it, we shred it. You have to take, every step that you can, just because, trust but verify, just to make sure it's actually been destroyed. So I thought that was another fun one that's out there too. And we got more, but I think that might be some fun topics to talk about there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, your fellow attorney Dan says that's actually a great defense. He goes on to say it's a creative abandonment defense, which that's a term I'm not familiar with, but I think it is a creative defense. And if it gets him out of this any trouble, then he's accomplished what he needs to accomplish for himself. But the hobby's not going to let him off so easily, right? Like there's a common cliche in the hobby that we often say, which is the hobby often says, or narrative, call it whatever you want, that the hobby quickly forgets. It forgets any wrongdoing and moves on. But there are people in the hobby that don't let the hobby forget things anymore. So some things won't be forgotten. But anyway,
there actually is, to show how short that the hobby forgets. Remember the Panini break-in at their headquarters?
Yeah.
Where stuff was stolen? Remember that? What happened?
Yeah, now that you mention it, I do. Forgot about it. Good one.
That's like one of those mysteries that's out there. It only happened 2 years ago. We've got no resolution. Or what about the Dallas Card Show theft? Same year. It's just so. I think we have a very short memory, and I think that's great for manufacturers. And I'm glad that there are some people that won't let some issues go. They're good for them. But yeah, I think for the most part, the hobby forgets, and we forget quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, the Dallas Card Show heist is a huge thing, but you just don't know what investigation is going on behind the scenes and still going on. So okay, thanks for the update. We'll pause there. I think it's a good time, like you said, to pause, and let's go to Chris Hoge, because he's got a legal mind himself and a sharp mind as well. So Chris, just unload your thoughts, what you've been thinking along Paul's discourse.
Yeah, I had one follow-up for each case. How about we'll go in reverse order on the DFW Card Sharks case. I know we don't want to speculate and try to draw inferences from what a settlement might mean about topics that were not covered by the settlement, but I still can't help but wonder if any of us have opinions on what it means that there was a settlement reached with respect to whether or not DFW Card Sharks claim that the disposal company was not required to destroy these cards had any merit to it, because as a collector, that's incredibly of interest to know if there are these duplicate copies. I mean, as a 90s collector, lots of us have dealt with these backdoored copies that were auctioned off during the Fleer bankruptcy in the early 2000s. So I just wonder if anybody wants to give any thoughts on if there's any merit to this defense that was offered here, that the disposal company wasn't required to destroy the stuff and that there might be more of this stuff floating around.
Yeah, I really wanted to see that. I really wanted discovery to proceed. I really wanted, because it all has to do with the contracts. But there's part of me with this too. And again, just to speculate, I would almost speculate on the side of the multi-billion-dollar company about, do you really think they had a contract with their trash collector? You can do whatever you want with it. A bare contract. I mean, I guarantee any Fanatics contract they have out there is 37 pages for anything. So I would think. And it was weird the way that his motion was worded. He was alleging that there wasn't a contract between Fanatics and the disposal company, but that leaves open Tops and that leaves open GCP. It left open a bunch of potential avenues that there were contracts. So I think we really need the discovery on that. I was really hoping for it. But sometimes for big companies and or potential defendants paying out a lot of money, best thing to do is settle confidentially and just let everyone's imaginations run wild.
Yeah.
Chris, what's your next? Let's keep on rolling.
Okay, Panini versus Fanatics antitrust case. So here's what I'm thinking here. Is there any potential for Fanatics now to obtain some sort of preemptive injunctive relief in the event that Panini might want to just say, hey, this lawsuit is pending. We're going to keep making cards and you're going to have to stop us. I mean, is there any possibility that Fanatics is going to say, because look, the NBA and the NBA PA licenses transfer on October 1st, 2025. What if Panini says, hey, we're going to keep going until this lawsuit's settled?
Yeah, I think what you're going to see is Panini is bound by a contract. Their contract ends. I think we'll see Fanatics just continue to wait for those dates, and they're going to release their product. We saw it with the WWE with the license transfer there. So I don't think there will be. There's in the pleadings there are threats of injunctive, that they will seek preliminary injunctive relief. They haven't yet. That takes a long time. Antitrust cases do not move quickly. And if Panini was going to move for a preliminary injunctive relief, because they're the ones that would have to stop Fanatics from actually making this product, I think they would have needed to start that by now. Now, if Panini wants to push the bounds and try and keep producing product for NBA or NFL, I think in that instance, it would be the NFL or the NBA that would be bringing the lawsuits for those. And we already saw, and I'm forgetting which one it was, if it was the NBPA. I think it was the NBPA. I forget who it was, but we already did see one of the leagues push back on this. It lost horribly, but I think it lost. It settled confidentially, but I think they lost horribly. So I don't think that would be allowed. So I think when those dates come, we're going to see a transition. I think Fanatics will start producing cards. I think Panini will stop, and we'll see what happens. But I am cheering for the injunction. I am cheering for chaos. I really like that. That's what makes my day. Every day before I start working, I look and see what the latest filings are. It's my cup of coffee that's out there. So that would just make my day if something like that would happen.
Paul, you just want more cards to collect because you collect cards that are, they're held up in or parts of lawsuits, right? So you just want more cards to collect.
That's exactly it. Most people, they're player collectors or whatever they're collecting. I collect cards that are involved in lawsuits. So I actually need more lawsuits and legal issues to collect cards. Yeah. And hopefully they're low dollar value cards because, like I said earlier, there's a lawsuit over a LeBron RPA. I'm not going to be able to afford that card, but let's go for some of these commons.
But you're going to go dumpster diving with Dodds now over right?
Yeah, I will show up at his house. He just gives me the directions, give me a map like in Goonies, and we'll go do it together.
Where is it? Dan's Vintage says Paul feels like he's arguing an appeal and taking questions from the panel here. This is great. We got two legal minds here talking about. Me and Joe are just sitting back with the chat, listening to this question and answer period, which is great. So let's continue it. Chris, you haven't addressed the Ultra Pro one yet. I think, is that the last one?
And I
Yep,
do like a hot bench, as it's called. That's when I'm at my best. So please fire away and make it hard.
Nice. Okay, well, this one is the least legal in terms of a follow-up of the three. But I'm just wondering, what would be the practical effect if Ultra Pro's trademark stands or gets reinstated? What is the practical effect for us as collectors if we, walk into a card shop and we say, hey, I want to buy some penny sleeves and some top loaders, and there's some market confusion because, the owner of the card shop is like, well, we have these products from BCW and they're called something else. I mean, this is what you're looking for, but we can't really, legally, these aren't penny sleeves and top loaders. There's some other name that BCW had to come up with. So I'm just wondering, voice to the people who are impacted, the consumers who are actually impacted by this? What's the practical effect of people other than Ultra Pro not being able to call their products penny sleeves and top loaders when that's such common vernacular?
Yeah.
And Paul, sorry, before you respond, I want to respond really quick and just say, Chris, it's the same thing as when you go to get a slice of pizza and you walk in and there's no pepperoni pizza. The owner is going to say, hey, I don't have pepperoni, but would you like some beef pizza, or maybe you want a Mexican pizza? Like, it's, we don't have any penny sleeves, but we've got these card sleeves now. Like, I think
the
that's
generic equivalent.
they're the exact same thing, right? Like, so, but Paul, the legal answer, please, not my pizza analogy.
Yeah, trademark law is there to protect the consumer, actually. So any penalties that are out there would be applied at the manufacturer level. The confusion that you're talking about is supposedly what trademark law is supposed to protect. And I think the top loader penny sleeve is a bad example because everybody generically refers, consumers generically refer to penny sleeve and top loader as any type of thing that you're going to put your card used to actually protect your card. So I think when people show up, I think it'll be a joke should in the unlikely event that should Ultra Pro get their trademark registrations back and win this lawsuit. And I think you're going to have a lot of funny, every time you go to the hobby shop, you're like, oh, I'd like a penny sleeve. Oh, I mean a card sleeve. Thank you. Oh, I would like a top loader. No, I mean a rigid plastic case, please. So it's not going to affect the consumers. We're not going to pay any more for a product. You're not going to go to jail for saying the wrong thing. But I think it could inspire a lot of really fun custom shirts at the national in the coming years.
And that's, I think, all this is. To me, this is actually like a joke. Like, to me, it's like, who cares? Right here, Bob Boozle says, call them dollar sleeves, higher quality. Foul Ball says, order a Coke and get a Pepsi.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
really what it is, right? It's like, can I get some penny sleeves? The cards, the LCS owners will say, yeah, here you go, and give you whatever they stock because they don't care. They just want to sell the product. And I don't even call them penny sleeves, to be honest. I just call them sleeve. I need a sleeve. Do you have a sleeve? If I'm at a show and I run out of my supply, I'll go to my neighbor. I'll go, hey, do you have a top loader? That I use, but I never say penny sleeve ever. I just call them sleeves. So anyway, okay. Joe, any thoughts or comments on any of this? There's a lot of content there.
Well, I mean, the one that's most interesting to me is the Fanatics Panini dealio, and I was just curious. You mentioned that these agreements that now will be able to be seen by the other side. Is that one? My first question is that something that we will also have access to? And then secondarily, what would be your curiosity around the language and what the language might reveal that would, lean the case as well as we know up to this point in one direction or the other?
Sure. Unfortunately, when it comes to litigation, and especially litigation between large companies, they have these things called protective orders, saying which documents they have to file in open court and which documents they do not have to file in open court. And Fanatics has made it clear these documents are not going to be filed in open court. Now, at some point, a judge may issue a ruling and declassify parts of the documents when they have discussions about it. But ultimately, Panini and I'm using the term Panini loosely, Panini's attorneys will be able to look at these documents. People at Panini will not be able to look at these documents. But if the judge makes a ruling and substantively relies on the language there, that's the only chance where we'll actually see what these license agreements see.
Mm.
As to what type of language we're looking for to push this case towards antitrust or not, really the license agreements might not actually contain that language. It's more of the outside actions. Has Fanatics done anything to hurt competition? Because really, I think these license agreements are, they're exactly going to be very similar to Panini's license agreements. It's, hey, you have the exclusive rights to make our cards. You have the exclusive rights to use our logos. You have the exclusive rights to use our player images. I mean, it's not going to say, oh, and then also we're going to make it really hard for Panini. So I don't really think the license agreements will have much say over the case. It's going to really focus on, is Fanatics leaning on breakers and making their lives difficult to the point that they can no longer break products? Is Fanatics somehow destroying the market in that they're getting rid of innovation? And I think from what you guys were saying about the Top Summit, it sounds like, a lot of hobby shops are having record years or having really good years. That will help Tops, or it'll help Fanatics, because one of the big defenses to antitrust is there still a pro-competitive environment that's out there? Is it protecting of competition? Is it protective of innovation? So we'll see. So I think that's a long way of saying I think a lot of what we're going to see here that will tilt the case one side or the other will be outside of the license agreements.
We had a comment in the chat from Dan here, another attorney. He says we could see some of those contracts as exhibits in, I don't know how to say it, dispositive motions.
Yep. They will clearly be exhibits to dispositive motions. Those exhibits will be filed under seal. And and I'm sure there'll be a fight, actually. Panini will probably say, hey, we need to have these in the public. The court will probably not allow that. But if the court issues a ruling during a dispositive motion, that's summary judgment, basically saying, hey, Your Honor, this case shouldn't go to the jury. All the facts are in our favor, so you can end the case right here. If the judge relies on any language in that dispositive motion, in all likelihood, only at that point will we see that language or those parts of those agreements. So he's exactly correct. However, courts in cases like this do tend to protect the company's trade secrets a little bit here.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one quick follow-up? You mentioned that, there's probably not going to be anything in the nature of the language. It is what it's always been. But is it possible that in a kind of higher level of scrutiny with, judge and research, that the very nature of an exclusive license is something that's seen as untoward or, leading to monopolistic type of characteristics?
And that's one of those funny things about this lawsuit is that Panini is the worst plaintiff for that, because Panini's had the exclusives before this. So now it basically becomes an analysis of, well, how many exclusives is too many? How long of an exclusive is too many? And, that's kind of a weird issue. So what I didn't say, and I should have also said, is there has been a new antitrust lawsuit that was brought. After Panini's case survived, generally you have antitrust attorneys that will look and see, oh, this looks like a good case, I should get involved with this. There was a direct purchaser lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit brought against Fanatics a couple months ago. It's purportedly on behalf of people who directly purchased product from Fanatics for antitrust. That's a better lawsuit because you're not the former monopolist. Because that's what's always bugged me about this Panini Fanatics lawsuit, is it's so hypocritical. You've got the industry leader suing the next industry leader. I mean, it's it doesn't sound right. But when you bring it at the level of a direct purchaser, it kind of gives a little bit more credence to it. But then again, why didn't you bring this lawsuit against Panini? I mean, it's really going to turn on how many exclusives are too many exclusives and the length of exclusives. How long is too long?
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. By the way, to Dan, you don't have to apologize for the lawyer speak. We like that here. We want we want that here. So okay. So Paul, I'm looking at the message you sent me now, and I think you have 7 cases on here. And I want to ask you about Alt versus PWCC filed this week.
Yep.
Can I read what you sent me here? Just a little paragraph.
Or I could just summarize it too, just in case it's loaded with typos and everything. Yeah. So this week, Alt brought a lawsuit against PWCC, and it's a pretty interesting lawsuit. It's alleging that Alt lost money on PWCC's platform due to alleged shill bidding. And the focus is on between 2021 and 2023, which is before Fanatics purchased PWCC, is that they allege that they've come into evidence that there was a process of shill bidding where PWCC had access to everyone's highest bid, your maximum bid. And when it came to bidders that bid a lot of money or high-end auctions, that they would push the maximum, push up the final bids to the maximum bid quite often. And they provide some statistics. I think it works out to like maybe 25% of Alt's wins, they say, were exactly at their final max bid or within one bid of their max bid. So they're saying that's kind of like the mathematical evidence that, that there was something going on. But interestingly, they also say that there is a group of 6 people that are, involved in this shilling process. They don't identify them by names. They do say one of them is a father-son. There's a father-son relationship there, but that there's this group of people that were involved in a shill bidding process. So it's a kind of it's not a bare bones complaint, but it's lacking a lot of information. As a lawyer, as a plaintiff's attorney, I like the who, what, where, when, and why. I need to see names. I need to see specific dates. I need to see more than what's there. So I wish there was more details that was given. And especially when it comes to a case of shill bidding. When it comes to shill bidding, that's fraud. It's very difficult to get a fraud complaint past the motion to dismiss stage, past the initial stage, because you actually have to identify the who, what, where, when, and how. So I think this complaint is right on the edge. It might fall apart. You may remember there was a prior lawsuit against PWCC alleging shill bidding because PWCC set up its own auction platform after eBay kicked it off, saying that we had evidence of shill bidding. So somebody brought a lawsuit saying, hey, look, eBay says there was shill bidding. My lawsuit should continue because there was shill bidding. That lawsuit was dismissed at the motion to dismiss stage. So you really do need to have, hey, this person on this date made these bids and pushed us right to the limit, and we lost this much money because of that.
And I think that PWCC said that, and I know that they were developing their marketplace before eBay kicked them off back in the day. But my question about this one is, whose liability is this now? Who is all going after? PWCC was owned by Brent Higgins, who I don't know where he is or if he's still. He sold the company to Fanatics. It's now Fanatics Collect. So whose liability is this? Like when you buy a company, I just know this from my old professional days, when you buy a corporation, you buy all of everything it has. It's all of its contingent liabilities come along with it, I believe. So what does that mean? Is this really Alt versus Fanatics, or is this Alt versus the non-existent PWCC?
And I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because this complaint does not use the word Fanatics a single time in it. It only says PWCC. So it's one of those things where you're right. It's going to focus on when Fanatics bought PWCC, what did it buy? Was it an asset purchase where Fanatics just said, hey, I'm going to buy your inventory of cards and that's it? Or was it actually a purchase of the company? Because if it was a purchase of the company, including its liabilities, well, then the proper defendant in this case should be Fanatics. The Alt complaint, by not saying Fanatics, I mean, it's weird in and of itself. Like, do they want to?
Sorry, Paul, but does that then tell us that this was an asset deal and not a share deal when Fanatics acquired PWCC? Like, that would be logical, but it may just be a poor claim by Alt.
Yeah, I don't think they know, because again, that's going to be one of those contracts that we don't know. The purchase agreement, or whatever it was between Fanatics and PWCC, that's kind of secret. So again, as a plaintiff's attorney, what you tend to do is sue everybody and let the courts sort it out. So sue PWCC, sue Fanatics, sue everybody that's potentially there. So the fact that Alt does not name Fanatics, it's kind of a red flag there. I mean, maybe they didn't want to make Fanatics mad. I saw some press coverage. I think they made Fanatics mad, no matter what. So it's just weird. It's not how. And again, part of the reason I collect cards involved in lawsuits and I cover these is because a lawyer's favorite case is somebody else's case. I always love to second guess somebody else's case, and this is one of those ones where, as a plaintiff's attorney, I'm second guessing quite a bit of it.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Now, any other ones that you want to mention that you sent over? I mean, I'll leave it to you at this point. Then we'll go to Chris for his legally motive driven thoughts and comments and potentially questions, and then and we'll go from there. So, what else? Anything else you want to?
There's one more fun one that was supposed to go to trial this week. It's the Lance Jackson versus Collectors Universe /PSA case. This is a really long-running case. It was filed in 2021. It's still ongoing. It's a lawsuit over the plaintiff in that case submitted a Kobe Bryant refractor rookie card to PSA to get graded. He's got pictures of it before he submitted it. And when he got the card of the day he submitted it, actually, and when he got the card back, there was damage to the card. There was a little nick in the card, or a little divot, or a little dent that he alleges in the card. And they provided some pictures, and you can see that. And it ended up getting, because of that, it was graded as a PSA 8. PSA 9s, PSA 10s. PSA 9s went for over $100,000. PSA 10s would be considerably more than that. So plaintiff is noticeably upset about that, alleging that PSA damaged the card. And so the lawsuit is PSA's tried a bunch of defenses saying, hey, we're limited to the amount of, that you declared of card value. Court said, no, not necessarily. We can, override that defense and go from there. And then they also came up with this kind of crazy defense saying that, hey, it's not even damage, it's a speck of dust. And then, Lance Jackson said, well, if it's a speck of dust, well, I'll just crack the card on the stand and we can look at it. And so there's actually a big, huge fight right now over whether or not he's going to be allowed to crack the card out of the case to get rid of this speck of dust defense. PSA actually filed a motion for an injunction to say you can't do that. Because we need time to have our experts look at this card, and I always thought that was kind of funny, especially when Lance Jackson in his papers alleged that discovery has shown that PSA spends less than 2 minutes on average looking at any card whatsoever. Any card submitted, less than 2 minutes. So it seems kind of weird that PSA says, hey, we don't want you to crack this case because it's unfair to our experts, when it only takes them 2 minutes to actually grade a card, saying that they need longer than that. Case was supposed to go to trial this week. It's not going to trial until November now. So this long-running case is going to be even longer running. I can't believe PSA has let it go this long. It seems like this should have been something that they should have settled because it's going to do nothing for them but give bad news, like get confirmation out there that their grading time may be less than 2 minutes per card. But hey, they want to fight it, so we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, if they want to fight it, maybe they're believing in themselves. So like to see that,
Yeah.
But November will be interesting on that one for sure. Bob Boozle, this is for you, Paul. Bob Boozle says he wants to recruit you to join his divorce legal team when the time comes. When the time comes, we're planning ahead.
If his divorce is due to trading cards, I'm still the wrong person.
Chris, let's go back to you for your thoughts and comments on what the couple of cases that Paul just took us through.
Yep, I've got one follow-up to the Alt versus PWCC. The Lance Jackson versus Collectors Universe PSA is very interesting, but I should recuse myself from commenting on that because I work for Card Ladder, which is a sister company to PSA and is owned by Collectors Universe. So I should not say anything. So let me see if you guys want to say something about that, and then bring me back if we get a chance to ask a question about the alt PWCC.
Sure.
About the Kobe Bryant PSA case, I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, I'm actually 2 minutes is longer than I thought. That's what comes to mind for me, Paul. When you say that Discovery has shown that they spend 2 minutes, that's longer than I thought that they. And it's probably an average or a max or something like that. I don't know what it is, but that's actually I'm impressed they're spending 2 minutes. You know, if it's I don't believe that that's a max though. I actually think when they get a 6-figure card in, maybe this is me just hoping that they spend a bit more time on. I don't know how much time it takes to grade a card. I know how long it takes me to look at a card, but anyway, it seemed to me like 2 minutes was actually a long time. So if it's 2 minutes every single card, like if there's a timer on every grader's desk that says you need to spend 2 minutes to make sure you're grading properly, I'd be very pleased that they're actually spending 2 full minutes on a card. That's all.
I don't think it's like that though.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. But that's all. Joe, do you have any thoughts or comments on these topics?
Nothing really. I mean, the alt PWCC. I mean, again, it's an interesting cast of characters, if you will. I mean, alt being now in the auction world itself, and kind of casting stones at the sort of shadow of Fanatics, not quite Fanatics. I find it all sort of curious. Maybe, Paul, if we've talked about this before, I think, shilling bad. If you were to give us just a quick synopsis of the legal ramifications of shilling, like how does the law hold up against fraudulent bidding? And is it fraudulent? At what point does it become fraudulent, I guess, is what I'm asking, because like you were saying, I think it's probably pretty hard to ultimately prove.
Yeah. This is one of those case types where I think the law really needs to lessen the standard. Because it is very difficult to allege these cases properly and to win these cases, because you almost need to have, hey, bidder A on this date on this auction that we were bidding on bid like 7 times and drove us up. And I can link that person to as an employee of this company or a friend of an employee. You almost need that level of detail. On paper, however, shill bidding is completely illegal. There is a understanding that every auction should be by people who are willing to pay the final price, no matter what. So the fact that there may be some people in there that are trying to drive the price up. Now, if they're not associated with the auction house, if there's somebody who, say, they own one of these cards and they want to have a higher price, that person's always at risk of, if they're shill bidding and their highest bid is the highest bid, oh darn, I just bought that card. So long as the auction house doesn't let them out. So there's, kind of a protection there. But here, the allegation is that there was some inside baseball being played, that these companies knew what our max bid was. We had a terms of service that says nobody has access to your max bid. So right there, you have a breach of contract type action. And if somebody was utilizing that information to have somebody surreptitiously come in to max out their money, because part of the way PWCC is alleged to have made money is they got 20% of every auction. The higher the price that the card sells for, the more PWCC would make. So, but again, proving every single one of those steps, that's really difficult to do.
And is it typically the auction house, or can individuals who are involved in, maybe somehow colluding in their own cards' value rising, or everyone is exposed, I suppose, to the potential of being a legally defined shilling bidder?
Yeah, no, you're exactly correct. In the process of somebody who's shill bidding a card because they have other cards like that, it's easier to get away with it. However, there is that built-in, well, shoot, I overbid and I now have to buy this card. So that should deter the practice. Now, if your auction house lets people get away with that, and I think there was, and I wish I could remember the name of the card, but it happened like last year, and I was really focused on this, that there was a high, was it a Gretzky card? There was a high bid on a Gretzky card that was retracted by, I think, by Heritage, right? that was something that I really wish I wanted to see some action from that one too, because the second time the card, because you had a winning bid, I'm not saying that was shill bidding at all, but I'm saying you had a winning bid in that instance that was a higher bid than, and that was apparently, like, I guess, retracted, or they put the card back up and they had a lower sale.
Yeah, it went unpaid. The winning bidder basically blamed it on Red Bull. So just blame Red Bull for that one. He was too much Red Bull while he was bidding, apparently, but that's what that was. But yeah, he just didn't pay for it. And if it did 3.75 million, then I think it did like 2.3 or 2.2 of the second time. So,
right.
Yeah.
So in that instance, I was looking. Yeah, in that instance, I was looking for the auction house to sue that bidder, or the person who originally owned the card to sue that bidder that backed out, because you're in it's a contract. You are in a contract to purchase the card for that price. And I don't care if it's Red Bull, or, I mean, we've all, been on eBay when we should not have been on eBay after going out and having a couple drinks. And the next day you regret your purchase, but you're a grown up, you pay for your purchase. So I was kind of, hoping that there would be some litigation over that, because if you allow the highest bidder to back out, why are you having an auction? I mean, that's just, it calls the whole process into question.
Yeah. Lots going through my mind. That it's a contract to buy the card, the item. If you don't buy the item, you might have to exit the hobby altogether if you don't, which we've seen that happen a couple of years ago.
Red Bull is the new Twinkie, right?
the Red Bull insanity defense. I like it.
So on the alt PWCC thing, the firm puts a comment in here that is really interesting. I don't even know if you're aware of this, Paul, but he says here the conflicts of interest, because alt hired every fired PWCC employee, makes it very interesting, which makes you think, does alt have any insider information if they have in fact hired a bunch of people, former employees of PWCC?
Yeah.
So
potentially, and if you did, you should have put that in the complaint. But otherwise, there is kind of this, little complex, a little conflict of interest, because every one of those potential, if the source of the information is now an alt employee, well, the attorney on the other side is going to have such a fun time just tearing that person apart. Well, when did you learn about this information? Why did you do nothing about this information when you were there? Why is it now that your employer has brought this lawsuit and this is the only time you're bringing this information forward? So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a conflict of interest to like kind of disqualify alt, but when it comes to a jury doing credibility determinations, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, let's go to you to sort of wrap up the Paul Lesko segment. We do have a surprise guest who's going to join us for overtime. So we're going to swap, and believe it or not, it's going to be one lawyer for another. So we're just a night of lawyers here.
Apologize to the listeners for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, listeners. You're not dropping off yet, so that's good. But Chris, do you want to kind of add any final comments or questions for Paul?
Yeah, I have two, and I'll just combine them into one statement here, and then Paul can reply to whatever of it is of interest. The first one is that I really like how Paul narrowed in on the evidentiary component to this, what is actually going to need to be shown to prevail here, and contrasting that against a very generic complaint that sort of makes ominous implications but doesn't name anybody. So I wonder if Paul has any thoughts, pragmatically speaking, on this as a negotiation tactic, because I read the complaint too, and all debate basically says they are down about $15 million in market value based on what they believe is PWCC's manipulation of the market as a whole, that also caused a market-wide crash that is causing all of their card holdings to have plummeted a certain amount. And one of the examples of the purchases that they give is the Patrick Mahomes Prism Gold PSA 10 that they spent a little over $500,000 on. So I just wonder if Paul thinks that there's a negotiation tactic embedded in here, which is like, hey, we know maybe we're not going to get $15 million from you guys, but you can pay us off and settle now. And we're not going to name all these people that we're referring to in this case, but we haven't named yet. We're kind of holding back that tactic. So that's one. I want Paul's thoughts on the negotiation practice there. And then the other part is just, this is very quick. My second other idea is just, is there the makings of a criminal case here, depending upon what evidence actually exists?
Yeah, I'll take that second part first because I hadn't thought of that, but you're exactly correct. I mean, fraud, depending on where you are, fraud is criminal. And if they're alleging that's actually what's happened here, you could have some real, real issues with some people that have gone on. So that's a good point, and maybe that's part of the reason you don't have people's names named in there. But also as a negotiating tactic, I always find that's the worst negotiating tactic ever. If you want to negotiate with someone, give them a copy of the complaint before you file it. Say, hey, if we don't come to some type of determination, we're going to have to file this lawsuit. And then if negotiations break down, then file the lawsuit. Because there's this initial period where, if a lawsuit's filed, everybody believes in their case and they want to fight. It's going to hurt negotiations, at least for a little bit. And I think in instances like this, until somebody loses something, I think it stalls negotiations. The next step in this process is going to be a motion to dismiss, where PWCC or Fanatics says, hey, this case has no merit. Nothing is going to happen negotiation-wise until that's fully briefed and until the court rules. I mean, we're looking at 6 to 9 months down the road. So if this was a negotiation tactic to get a quick result, it's horrible job. Bad job, guys. You could have done better. But if this is, if you're trying, if you're filing a lawsuit, you're in for the fight. Prepare for the fight. Don't act like it's a negotiation. A lot of people don't do that. And I think Alt may learn the hard way that this is, if the point was just as a negotiating tactic, I think it's going to backfire on them.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Paul, for coming on, taking the time. I know it's late. I know you're out east. So thank you for working into our schedule here on Sports Cards Live and bringing all the heat tonight. Great information. And I think this is your 4th or 5th time on, but it's been a while. I think you're on episode 196. If I look back, we're on 266 now. I don't know how long that takes to get to there. I lose track of when's what, but thanks for coming back on, and we'll get you on again, maybe in November when things flush out in some of these cases. We'll see what happens with maybe, by then October 2025 will be passed, and the basketball license will transfer. I believe it's basketball that's first. So thank you, Paul, for coming on, and I'll invite you back in due course.
Great. No, thanks for having me on. It was good to meet you guys too. So I hope to see you all at the National.
Yeah, for sure. I just booked my flight yesterday, so I'm coming for sure. I'm there.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah, right on. Okay, Paul, thank you so much.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. Well, that was great having Paul on with us. And but I have bad news. We're bringing on another lawyer now. and then Chris.
Can I guess who it is?
You know who it is.
All right.
You know who it is. It's to say, okay, let's bring him on, guys. Please welcome Josh Adams.
Yeah, there it is.
Cards.
Christopher, Joe, Jeremy, what's going on, guys?
Hey.
How you holding up there? You getting tired or what?
I'm wide awake, pounding coffee. Was at a soccer game in the evening. I'm good to go. I have a question though. I wish Paul was still on. Nice. It's a pro move. If PWCC no longer exists, it's not a legal entity. Who are they suing? I would dismiss it on that grounds. First of all, there's not an actual party because PWC doesn't exist. That's a procedural lawyer thing, but that
was the question I asked at the top of that discussion was who are they actually naming here in this lawsuit, which is really interesting. So, but yeah, good observation as well, I would say. Okay, so we haven't done this yet, but Chris, I don't know if you came with a topic for tonight, but I had a topic for you for tonight. So that was based on your show last night, and the comment that I even made that did make it into the show, but was very quickly kind of redirected. And it was really interesting because the comment that I made was completely aligned with Christina's comment that she had made. I think she almost said it in the exact same words. But before we do that, well, Paul Lesko in the chat does say, I think there's still a PWCC entity on file in the state it was registered in. So maybe that's the answer. Oh, by the way, look at Paul's picture here.
Wow.
Is that the same guy that was just on with us? Look at that. Look at how handsome he is with the short hair and no beard. Not to say he's not handsome with them, but my gosh, Paul, it's like a different person.
It's before he was a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. or before he made partner, maybe, right? And he could, yeah. So, first of all, welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to see you. Chris, did you come with any thoughts? Anything that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, and we can just use that as a backup in case we want to run longer. I do want to squeeze in one of the thoughts that I had that came from the show itself, which is we were the topic. One of the topics was the pronunciation of Honus, the name Honus, right? And I think I think you guys settled it, and then T-Pott closed the door completely on any rebuttal. Even I think it's Honus. I think that's just what it is. But I'm going to take this thing a step further. All right, and this was inspired by when T-Pott sort of referenced the Germanic nature of this. Well, the last name isn't Wagner, it's Wagner. If we really want to go all the way, it's Honus Wagner. That is the correct name.
I love that because all of us in the hobby, even myself, I'm trying to do right by the man, and I'm only going half-assed at it, right? Like as is everybody else who's referring to him as Honus Wagner. It's Honus Wagner. So I don't think you're gonna catch many people referring to him as that. I might, on that basis alone, Chris, I might go back to Honus Wagner.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's room for art here.
Yeah, I think I might go back because I'm not going to go all the way to Wagner as well. Although it reminds me of that. There's the basketball player. Is Franz. It not Hans? What's his Hans Wagner? Is that his name?
Franz
Wagner.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think Seebles was doing a lot of Franz Wagner collecting at one time, and I listened to him say Franz Wagner, and I always just got a chuckle out of hearing him pronounce it that way. So, okay. Yeah, or as Christina says, I think she's saying, well, I don't know what she's saying there actually with the Honus part. Honus, I don't know. I need to hear you say it, Christina. Okay, well, I appreciate that, Chris. That was good. That was really good. So the topic that I was thinking. Oh, Josh, do you have something to jump in with?
No, sorry, no. I had it. Okay. I lost it. Never mind.
Okay, no problem. A comment was made on your Instagram post, Chris, where you solicit questions for the crossover, and a commenter put the comment on the post saying basically, can you guys speak to like what a card is really worth? Is everyone always says a card is worth what someone's willing to pay for it, but he went on to say, I don't really believe that to be the case. But he didn't say what he thought the case was, and then I responded and I said, I'm with that guy. I think when it comes to commodity cards that sell all the time, a card is worth, sure, what someone's willing to pay for it at that time. They come up, five every day, let's say. But a card that never comes up and might never come up is, I believe, worth what the seller is willing to sell it for. Because I could have a card that is highly desirable, and I might, there's maybe been no sales. Someone might only be willing to pay $10,000, but I'm not selling it for less than 20. So is the card worth 10, or is the card worth 20, or is it worth? Or do you take the average? How do you determine the value of a card in that case, or do you just say we don't know? It's unknown, simply unknown until the card is offered in an open auction, perhaps, or there is a arm's length deal, private deal, or non-private deal made on a card like that. But I'm pretty, like, I'm open to discussion, and I can change my mind. But like, I've had cards where people have wanted them from me, and I'll say, well, listen, it's not for sale, but if you press me, I'll give you the not for sale price. And you might think you can buy the card from me for $10,000, but it's not for sale. So you want it's $20,000. That's what the card's worth to me. Otherwise, I'm not selling it. You got to decide if you want to step up. So it's an interesting. Now, when it comes to a commodity card, and by that I mean a card that is readily available on whatever platform all the time. A Gretzky rookie, a Jordan 86 Fleer. You can find these anytime you want. A Topps update, Mike Trout, available anytime you want. Any Prism basketball player, any Mahomes Prism Silver, they're always available. So with all those comments that I just made, and you guys last night on the crossover, Christina made the comment, which was basically what I had said. So her and I were aligned. And then you put it to Josh, but he took it in a totally different direction. You guys didn't really come back to that. So I want to come back to that now, if we may, and get your thoughts on on that, and then let's hear from Joe and Josh on that topic as well.
Okay, so let me start here. So this is the question of what is the definition of card value? That's what this is. And so if the idea is that if you have a really rare or really scarce card and its value is determined by the seller, then what would you say in response to this thought experiment I'm about to give? So let's say that I own the Trae Young Prism Black 1/1 from his rookie year. Only one copy of this card. So this is a very rare and scarce card. And let's say that the most that any person in the market is willing to pay for it is $50,000. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. Let's just speculate. Let's stipulate to that $50,000 is the most any person in the world is willing to pay for it right now. But I own it. I think Trae Young is going to just have this amazing next 10 years. He's going to be the greatest player ever. So I say this card is worth $20 million. And I will not sell it for a penny less. So if I, as the seller, say I will not take less than 20 million, but on the demand side, there's not a buyer who would pay more than 50,000. Which one of those is the number? Is it my ridiculous 20 million? Or is it the buyer's side's 50 grand? Or is it no, there's nothing. There is no known value right now because there will never be a meeting of the supply and the demand.
Great scenario, because you show just how it shows that there are extremes that challenge what I was saying before, which is, I said 10 to 20,000, you're saying 50,000 to 20 million. It's a huge difference there, in which case, and listen, my honest thoughts are the owner of the card is out to lunch, because there's also another distinction there. The way you presented it was the owner believes that Trae Young's going to have a great career. So down the road, it'll be worth that. So what's it worth tomorrow is not what it's worth today. There's a huge difference there. So the owner is saying, listen, I think I'm going to get 20. But then if he thinks it's going to be worth 20 million in 10 years, well, then you can present value that money and bring it down to what it is. It's no longer 20 million. Maybe it's 15 or 14 or something like that. Still a ridiculous amount of money, and still a lot more than the 50K that anyone else is willing to pay. So I don't know the answer to that. I think the answer is closer to what the buyers are willing to pay in that case on this 1/1 card. But it's not for sale for that amount. So what's it worth? I think it's worth somewhere in between 50,000 and 20 million. Or the present value of 20 million, depending how far out he feels 20 million is achievable. And that's a whole other part of the calculation. But I think it's somewhere in between. In my case, I think it's somewhere in between the 10 and the 20 is what it's actually worth. Doesn't mean that the seller, me in that case, is going to sell it for anything under 20,000. The buyer has to step up. And the other thing that's unique to your situation there is an active player. Not that it's unique, because there are so many active players, of course, but that's an active player. And I might be thinking about a Wayne Gretzky PMG green. I own one, 2012 Fleer retro PMG Gretzky, 10 copies made. And I might say, you know what, if you want to, and I've said things like this before to people who say, any chance it's available? Well, yeah, but I'm not going to talk to you unless you're bringing 6 figures to the table. And that's what I would say on that card. 6 figures just to talk to me about it, And they might say, well, the last one sold for 40 grand. I'll say, that's fine. That's fine. Go buy that one. Mine's not for sale. You want it, you can have it. It's $100,000, which is a bit closer to your extreme example, which is very important still. So yeah, I don't know where I land on what's it worth. I want 100 grand or you can't have it. You're willing to pay 40. What's it worth? I don't know. Josh, what do you think it's worth in that situation?
The answer is 40, because that's what someone wants to pay for it. See, and I responded to Chris.
But they can't buy it for that.
Doesn't matter. That's what the market's offering. You're not getting a higher bid than 40. So that's what it's worth. See, here's my problem with this question is that it shows that everyone likes the free market until the free market doesn't agree with them. And what it really shows is how capitalism is a failure, but that's a whole other topic for another time. But the point is, for this thought experiment, the value of that card is what the open market can get for it. And the open market can get 40,000. If you don't want to sell it for that, that's fine. But that's what it's worth.
Well, okay. I just push back on a little bit. You say open market. This is a private conversation, but this isn't a card. Well, okay. Maybe I put it on a marketplace and I put it on for, $100,000. Buy it now. No best offer. Well, no one's going to buy it. That's fine. But that's what it's going to take to buy the card. There's no bids. There's no offers being made. There's just a bunch of people ignoring it. So
it's not worth it. It's too high.
Because it's not selling at that time for that.
Right.
But that's a case where people know that it's available, in my opinion. In a situation where on Instagram or I'm talking to a few people in my private chats, it's hard to really hone in on this because there's so many scenarios and we are not an efficient market. The hobby is not an efficient market like the stock market is, even though it's not perfect itself, but it is efficient. Right. The hobby is not. It's just not. I can offer a card for sale on eBay. Well, the people who only shop on Fanatics or 90s auctions don't know about it. I can offer a card on Fanatics. The people who only shop on eBay don't know about it. So that's why I don't completely agree with you, Josh, but I understand what you're saying, and I don't completely disagree either. So let's get Joe's thoughts on this. Where any ideas, Josh or Joe? Can you help us out?
I guess not any direct thoughts. It just kind of raises to my mind, the bin way of selling and buying and the auction way. And I think most of us agree that auction sales, I mean, obviously there's contexts and circumstances behind each and every auction that are worth taking note of. But I think generally speaking, I lean more towards an auction price as being a accurate representation of, what the market for an asset amounts to. But there are times when I've paid over market value with a bin, and that's the new comp, and so like that's always a give and take process. It's never, I don't think it's ever going to be static. I don't think it's ever going to be just one reckoning. I think, but I lean more towards what Josh is saying, like, what's someone willing to buy it? And because, are you really a seller if you don't want to sell it?
Right. Well, exactly. And I want to go to a comment Lantern put in, because this has happened between me and this guy's Lantern is. So this happened between me and Turner here, where I'm going to take the comment off just so we can see the guys on the bottom here. But I had a card for sale at the Edmonton Expo a couple of years ago, not for sale, in my showcase, in the showcase of PC cards that I had to bring some heat to the show. I wasn't looking to sell them. And he wanted the card. And I said, well, I forget what I wanted for it, but it was more than he was willing to pay. So let's read his comment now. He says, when I purchased your Seismic Gold Crosby, you wanted more at the Edmonton Expo. It eventually went to auction, and I got it for half of what I offered you at Edmonton. So it's dependent on the buyer. Now, he's right. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but I'm sure he'd remember better than I did. But he's right. He probably got less. He got it for less than what I would have sold it, what he offered me at the show. But it wasn't for sale when he offered me that money. I wasn't willing to sell it for that. But then he gets it for even less than he offered me. So what is that car? And this is all, the other thing is that this is so dependent on a specific time and a specific place. These things change a lot. Like my circumstances changed. I got into a position where I had to sell the cards. I had to raise some money for other reasons. So the card went to auction to the highest bidder, and I found out what it was worth on that day. And Turner, I'm happy he won it. Like at first he was a little ticked at me. He's like, what? And I'm like, dude, my situation changed. It's now for sale. Go buy it. Go win it. And I'm glad it went to him because he's a good guy. So go ahead, Josh.
That kind of proves my point, my argument. That whole scenario just kind of proved that I'm right. But also, Christina's argument is like apples and bowling balls, because Aston Martins sell on a regular basis. So it's not a comparable analogy, but I give her credit for it's a good argument.
Well, let's
Mine's
read
better,
it.
but it's a good argument.
She says that's like saying the Aston Martin DB12 isn't worth $245K because I'm not willing to pay that much for the car or
That's not what
a
I'm
car.
saying.
Not a good argument, Josh. Well, listen, I mean, at the time, my Crosby Seismic Gold, let's say, was worth $1,000 because that's what it was worth to me, not to the buyer. I needed that money to part with the card on that day. But then my circumstances changed and the card came down in value because I needed less money for it at that time. So this is so fluid. I don't think there's the right answer here, guys. I don't think you're right, Josh. I don't think I'm right. I don't think I think but actually there's a comment that came in earlier from Dan. Always great comments from Dan. A couple here. He says, so he said wrong. He said, ask 50. And so this is someone wants to pay me 40. I want 100. But if I say, okay, I'll take 50 and someone buys it, well, then now it's worth 50, not 40 anymore. So there's your worth there. So it's somewhere in between, just like a regular bid-ask market. It's the value is somewhere in between the bid and the ask once those two parties come together and make a deal. Foul Ball says anything is for sale for the right amount of money. I agree. Christina says it's called supply and demand. There is a demand at a 40K price, but no supply comes available at that price. So why is the buy side in your mind, Josh? Why is the buy side in full control and the sell side has no influence on it?
Well, that's a very good question. And the buy side is in control because if you have a card and it's way too, and there are no buyers, then it doesn't sell. If there are more buyers, then they control what the price would be.
But it's also not actually for sale. Like it's not let me rephrase. It's for sale for that money, but it's not being marketed for sale. It's like, hey, if someone comes along, like my new fancy Joe Jackson card, it's for sale, guys. This card I'm officially putting on the market, $1 million. You all know what I paid for it. You saw it happen. Someone offers me $1 million, I'd be doing my family a disservice not taking the money.
But is that a good faith offer though?
No,
It is.
Right. Yes, it is, because anyone can cut me a check and I'm going to send them the card or I'll fly it to you. But it's a drastic thing. But I'm saying, I'm just saying that I'm in control of what this card is going to sell for next time, not the buy side. I'm in control. Even when I put it to open auction, I make that decision. I'm in control. And any card, I'm just showing that because it's at the top of my pile I have on my desk right here because I love looking at it. So, Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you just kind of said that we're all wrong. We're all talking about different things. So like even the example, let's say we have like a really crystal clear situation where 5 minutes ago, one of the Gretzky PMG greens sold for $100,000. But let's say we also are all-knowing beings who know what is in the mind of every hypothetical buyer in the world. And we know that there was only one buyer at 100,000 and that every other buyer is at 40,000. Well, the one buyer bought his copy, and let's assume further that we know that he's never going to buy anymore. Now what's the price? Just because that comp got recorded at that price doesn't mean that the next time that an identical copy of that card comes up for sale, that it's going to sell for that comp. Now, maybe that comp influences how the other buyers are thinking. And the other buyers say, oh, the demand for this card is much higher than I thought. I once was willing to only pay 40. Now I'm going to be willing to pay 120 just to make sure that I get the next copy. So maybe the price isn't 40 and it's not 100, it's 120 because that comp has influenced the mode of thinking of the potential buyers who suddenly realize they have to up the ante in order to get involved with the card. So my point is that a card has a value. Like Jeremy, I thought you phrased it very nicely. A card had a value on that day at that time. There was a transaction that happened that was an exchange of money at that price. Otherwise, I don't think we know.
Yeah, and that's we saw someone just put that in the chat here as well. I think basically what you are saying, Chris. I want to find that comment here. Well, Foulball said there is no value in a card until you sell. Well, they have value. You just don't know what it is. There was another one here. I'm just not finding it right now, so I apologize. Well, Hobby Champ said, so is literally everything valueless until there's a transaction? Well, what about a true one-of-one item that is never sold before? So there was one other. Okay, this is already from 10 minutes ago, but Kinger, I haven't even read this in full. So let's read this. He says, a few months ago, I bought a Crosby card with Mark from Fund Your Cards, and the card rarely shows up at auction or sale. I had to negotiate a price with the owner having 0 comps. It's a PC card and I'm happy. So you were able, so the buyer obviously, or the seller was obviously willing to sell the card. So that's important right there. But yeah, Chris, like you said, we don't know what the true value of a card is until the buyer and the seller come to an agreement. If they can't, I believe that the value is somewhere in between, or not, or more or less. Because look, my situation with Turner, it was less than that bandwidth. It was less than that range. He offered 500. I wanted 1,000. He got it for 350. That was the value later on. Your example with the PMG Green. Someone's offering 40. I want 100. Maybe it's worth 120. So we're talking in circles at this point, I feel like, because we don't know what it is. But I can't get in line exactly with you, Josh, and say it's what the buyer is willing to pay, because I'm not willing to give that much power to the buyer over something that I own. They don't even own it. So I don't know. Joe, can you give us any thoughts? And Joe, if you need to go, because I know we're maybe getting past your and you might have some things to do, feel free to drop off, buddy.
Thanks. No, yeah, I don't have a wrap up sufficiently. I think it's an open-ended question, and I'm comfortable in the uncomfortable space of not knowing the answer to this one.
Fair enough. I mean, there's some great comments coming through, and maybe I'll just run through and start reading a few of them here without kind of pre-reading them. So let's see here. First of all, Bob Boozle says, "Oh, Cabana Boy, fetch me a strawberry martini and a macroeconomics book." You can always count on Bob Boozle for kind of bringing us back to normal a little bit. Mikey says, "Only worth what someone is willing to pay." I disagree. Nuba says, "If you have 5 copies out of a print run of 10, the seller controls the market price." Now this is interesting because I've hoarded cards before, and I don't find it to be a good thing. Unless it's like Michael Jordan, really rare Jordans or something like that. It's not necessarily a good thing, because when you start to sell them, you end up flooding the market a little bit. And I've had to do that. It's not a great situation. So I think that can often, people say they want to hold them all, so they own the market. People start to lose interest in things where one person owns them all. Has been my experience. So maybe that's not universal. But Linda's first says, "I'm with Josh. Completed transactions make the value. 100% they do in a commodity market. A commodity market, yes, but in a rare, scarce market, I don't agree with that at all." Josh, retort.
It's still a commodity, and these are pieces of cardboard that have no inherent value. The value is derived by the transaction and by the free market putting a value on it. So if we're going to put our faith in the free market, you have to accept the consequences of that. And the consequences are what a buyer is willing to pay on a card.
But not
I
for sale.
respect your position.
But not if it's, okay. Dan says, "Jeremy, best Dr. Evil impersonation ever." And that was not on purpose. I got to tell you that. I didn't even know I did until I saw his comment there. CC, in my opinion, a market value must have a competitive and open market. If you don't have actual buyers and sellers in a competitive environment, I don't think there is a true market value. Maybe the comment that makes the outlook that makes the most sense to me, and we've kind of said it along the way, that if a buyer and a seller cannot come to an agreement, there is maybe just isn't a true market value at that time. So I like that comment from CC. At least it resonates with me. I don't know what that one's about. Bob Boozle, Jeremy would kick Dr. Evil's butt, but may struggle against Kojak. Hey, yeah, I can get behind that, Bob Boozle, for sure. Calabria, what does he say? It's a PSA 1.5, but IPL says it's a PSA 10. LOL, 10 million, please. I mean, hey, technical grade given by a grading company is really just one person's opinion on a given day. That's really all it is. So fair enough right there. No pivot tables needed, says DS. Linda's first, worth is hypothetical. Value is purchase price. That makes some sense to me. Merchant of Cool says the value is always fluid. 100% agree with that. Dan's Vintage, this is why Chris is the closer. Great comment. 100%. Rip and List, what a great time to be in the hobby. Andrew Anderson, what about buying insurance on a card? You can't overpay. You can't overprice that. Lantern, example 2, my Drysidle Sparkling Diamonds. I tried to sell that card privately for $1,250 and I couldn't sell it. Went to auction and did $3,300 on Fanatics. Dependent on the buyer, in my opinion. Interesting. But the seller had to put it for sale and take the risk to put it on open market auction. And I was watching that auction. I was covering it on a show. I love that card. And I'm glad that Lantern Turner got what he did for it. Almost 3 times what he was willing to sell it for earlier. Anyone want to pay me $300,000 for my PMG Green Gretzky? Let's go, baby. But it also takes 2 to tango. Foul Ball says the Beckett term, no price due to scarcity. Looks like Dr. Beckett figured this out 35 years ago, guys. Right there, maybe even longer. So lots of comments coming through on this, guys. I appreciate them. Andrew Anderson, what would you insure your Shoeless Joe Jackson for? I believe a bank would use the last purchase price. Well, I am the only purchase price now as long as I own this card, I am the last purchase price of this card. They're all different. So what would I insure it for? Because I don't want to pay the premiums. I'd probably insure it for what I paid for it, maybe a little bit more to kind of get into replacement value territory if I could. MJ Collector, in Jeremy's scenario, giving seller the power, the value is unknown no matter how you feel about the card. Yeah, again, I think that's where I'm at on this, is it's unknown. And Linda says, by the way, this might be the best sports card live ever. Great discussions all night. Thank you for that, Michael. Appreciate the comment. I've been enjoying this one intensely myself tonight. It's been nonstop, great topic. So, okay, I'm going to let everyone else talk now. I'm talking too much here. Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to probably drop off here, and I share Linda's sentiment. This was a very engaging discussion throughout. And I want to also just congratulate Hoge's Nuggets and or Jokic advancing on, and now they get the opportunity to knock the new kids off the mountain, or at least their current mountain of being the number 1 seed. That'd be OKC. And not feeling super confident about my Warriors tomorrow, but you never know. You never know what Steph Curry might do in a game 7. But anyway, good seeing you, Josh. Jay Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll catch up with y'all in the not too distant future.
Joe, and thanks for covering for me when I had to step away. And you're hoping for your Warriors. I'm hoping for the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow. So we both have a couple of teams that are not looking like they have the momentum on their side right now. But we will see what every game, anything can happen. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
And Joe, watch your messages, please.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. All right. Dan's Vintage says, sign me up for the next lawyer episode. Done. Bob Boozle says, Dr. Beckett evolved into a Hoge, a very powerful Pokemon. Clever comment, Bob Boozle. Dan says, Lesko is a great guest. I mean, he just brings news and information and happenings to it. Nuba says, great topic, definitely not black and white on the market, on the values. And I agree, it's not black and white. I know, Josh, you feel, and a couple of people in the chat feel it is black and white. It's what a buyer is willing to pay. But if it's not for sale, then I just think it's somewhere in between, or again, I've said it a few times. So Josh, listen, we're at the point where we usually wrap this up anyway, but you kind of came in and got thrown to the wolves here. Josh, anything you wanted to mention tonight?
This is a very interesting topic. I do hope the Jets win tomorrow. I can't stand the St. Louis Blues with the fierce, the fiery Thousand Suns. I hate them so much. So Hellebuck better show up tomorrow. And
well, they are home. They are at home. They've won the games at home, so it's been a homer series.
Yeah, so I feel good about it tomorrow. But is Scheifele playing? If Scheifele's not playing,
game time decision. They're saying
that's not good. All right.
Foul Ball says hobby lawyer talk taking both sides would be great. I agree. Christina's on my side of this. I could tell that last night, Christina. And but listen, I think that just there's more thinking that I would need to do to because listen, I'm open-minded about it. I'm not convinced yet of anything other than I don't know where it is, Jacob Beeson says Scheifele will play. Guys, if you're on your way out of here, by the way, we still have 165 people with us, but if you're on your way out, hit the like button on your way out. I appreciate it. Foul Ball appreciates that as well, and I appreciate Foul Ball for putting that in the chat, but just hit it on the way out. Make it easy for you. DS, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Josh, anything that and by the way, Josh is a co-founder of 90s Auctions. We did an episode together yesterday profiling the lots that are ending. The auction ends tomorrow, guys, on 9. Show Josh Midwest Vintage and his partner John a bit of love. Go register on 90s Auctions to bid.
Yep. Ends tomorrow night, 8:00 Eastern, 7 Central. Open extended bidding. So we're begrudgingly moving into the 21st century. And it'll be a fun night. See what happens.
Good stuff. Chris, anything on your mind before we can wrap up, I think. So anything on your mind before we do?
Nah, let's wrap up. Great show.
You're good. All right. Well, guys, Foul Ball, only 8 likes, really, on 118 viewers on YouTube, I guess. I'm showing 164 across all platforms, not including Instagram, but I'm seeing no one there right now. So Instagram's gone to sleep on us. But thank you, Foul Ball. Dan's Vintage, I appreciate that, my friend. Toby Champ says, hit that like button. Don't hit it twice. You turn it off if you hit it twice. Oh, Nuba says, refresh, Foul Ball, refresh. Maybe we're more than 8 now. And Saba Mazloom says, Jeremy, random question. You showcase your cards in the office. Are you not afraid of sunlight exposure? I'm trying to set something up like that too. I don't showcase very many cards in my office. You see these ones here? They are very well protected UV wise, and they're not directly in the sunlight. So I'm happy to enjoy those. These ones behind me here in this cabinet. How do I get my finger to point there? These ones here, these ones here. They're patch cards. They're all patched. So I'm not really worried about them. And that's it. Any other cards I have do not really sit out in the light too much. So, and then these things behind me are actually they're oil paintings. They're all original art paintings up there. So, but thanks for the question. Thank you, Laura. She says go Blues. I say go Jets, go. We're going for the Jets here. And you're welcome, Saba. You're welcome. Okay, guys. Well, Chris and Josh, thank you. Thanks to everyone else we had come through tonight. That's it, guys. I want to thank the chat for being awesome tonight. We're sending our best to Orlando on his recovery from his operation and getting rid of the lung cancer altogether. Definitely hoping the best and to see Orlando at the National. Orlando from A Collector's Dream YouTube channel, of course. If you're not yet following him, are you really in the hobby? And another note, the Card Ladder show crossover is moving to YouTube starting next week.
Yeah,
no longer
awesome.
on Instagram. So that's really cool. And if you are not signed up for Card Ladder and you want to sign up for Card Ladder, there is an affiliate link in the video description below. Feel free to hit that and you'll send a couple of bucks my way and you'll get the best comp show. I see comp product out there. The one that I use repeatedly every single day. So with that, very quickly though, Bob Boozle's decided to enroll in law school tonight.
Don't do it, Bob. Don't do it. I had a full head of hair before I started. Don't do it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Foul Ball. Says 49 likes now. Very, very good. And Kinger, glad to see you found a Shifley Gold Prism. That's really cool. You better play. Guys, thank you once again. I'll be back tomorrow with the Fanatics Collect weekly auction covering all the sports. And I might do a show next week just showing some of the cards that I've used to consolidate into the Joe Jackson, and they're currently listed on Slab Sharks on eBay. Maybe do something to cover that as well. Hobby Champs wants to know, will the crossover be doing live chat, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right. Good stuff. Thank you, Foul Ball. Thank you, Nuba. Guys, with that, here on May the 3rd, 2025, this episode of Sports Cards Live is now
over.
Do it, Josh.
Do what? I'm sorry.
And thank you, everybody.
All right.
Have a great Sunday, everybody.
Bye.